Chapter 580 Hanju was rejected. Chapter 580 Hanju was rejected. Hearing Ancestor Shitian's words, Jade Bodhi smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Shitian, I don't like your words. I've long been unrelated to the Buddhist sect. I've also done my best to fulfill my duty in the dark forbidden zone. Don't slander me." Seven Tao Sage smiled. "That's right. It's not easy for me to be in the deity realm of the ruins of End. I'm not like fellow Taoist Shitian, who sits at the peak of the heavenly Tao and doesn't care about anything." Dijuan did not say anything, but his smile was filled with deep meaning. The atmosphere between the four mighty figures became subtle. Ancestor Shitian wasn't angry. "If you want to take over the responsibility of protecting the heavenly Tao, I have no objections." Jade Bodhi and Seven Tao Sage did not retort. Dijuan smiled. Come. It's not easy for us to meet. Don't become angry. All of you are existences who can compete with the heavenly Tao in terms of lifespan. The outcome of the previous battle has yet to be determined. Let's continue killing." Seven Tao Sage snorted. "So be it. If you have the guts, don't target me. Watch as I kill you all." "What a joke. Do I need to target to kill you?" The four mighty figures sat together. The atmosphere suddenly changed. Time flew. As usual, Hanju was immersed in his seclusion cultivation and enjoyed the pleasure of his cultivation level increasing step by step. Suddenly, he sensed something and opened his eyes. In the 9 heavens, Feng Liang stood in front of the South Heaven Gate, absorbing the providence of the world. His body emitted white light, and his body was illusory, like a projection. Hanju showed a frown. This kid. He was not only absorbing the providence of the heavenly Tao. To be precise, he was like the Fusang tree, absorbing the natural source of the immortal world. This action would definitely alarm the sages. This fellow had been the heavenly emperor before, so he should know this. It could only mean that Feng Liang was confident. Feng Liang was already at the zenith heaven realm, but over the years, his cultivation level had not improved much, as if he had encountered a bottleneck. Hanju didn't stop him. He wanted to see what Feng Liang wanted to do. He opened his attributes list and discovered that 1,620 years had passed. Time passed quickly. Hanju looked at Han Tua. This kid had been hanging out with Yi Tian recently. There was also Han Ming. The three of them were exploring an ancient mystic realm that was located overseas. Hanju could sense that a heavenly Tao numinous treasure was hidden in the ancient mystic realm. It was left behind by Li Mui. The current Han Tua had already stepped into the deity realm and could be considered to have completely established himself in the immortal world. Hanju looked at Hanyu again. This fellow had unknowingly ascended to the immortal world and had currently joined a cultivation sect. His status was very low, and he was guarding a medicinal garden. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Hanju couldn't help but think of his younger self, who also guarded a herb garden. It had to be said that this kid was very fated with him. They looked alike and had similar encounters. Ever since he was saved by Hanju, Hanyu had become extremely cautious and obsessed with cultivation. This made Hanju very satisfied. Han Tua walked a completely different path from him, while Hanyu followed Hanju. After hesitating for a moment, Hanju decided to cast a spell to visit Hanyu. The mountain was like a forest. Halfway up a mountain, Hanyu sat on a huge rock. In front of him was a pool with strange flowers. Hanyu wore a white robe and was very handsome. A group of female disciples flew on their swords and stopped when they passed by. "Junior Han, are you coming with us to train?" A gorgeously dressed female disciple covered her mouth and asked with a smile. The other female disciples also looked at him with bright eyes. Hanyu was too handsome. No male disciple in the entire sect could compare to him in terms of looks. Hanyu opened his eyes and shook his head. "Thank you for your kind intentions, senior sisters. I still have to guard the herbs. Perhaps next time." The green-robed female disciple curled her lips. "You always say next time, you fool." With that, she turned and left. The other female disciples followed closely behind. One of them said coquettishly, "Oh, are you really stupid? If you followed our senior, would you still need to be a medicine guardian here?" Hanyu smiled bitterly and did not answer. After the female disciples left, he heaved a sigh of relief. You don't like women? A mocking voice sounded. A white-robed man had unknowingly appeared under the tree beside the medicinal pool. The tree's shade covered his face, preventing Hanyu from seeing him clearly. Hanyu frowned. He wasn't a mortal, but he still couldn't see the other party's face. What did this mean? It meant that the other party's cultivation level far exceeded his. Hanyu asked warily. Who are you? The white-robed man was naturally Hanju. Hanju asked with a faint smile. Answer me first. Hanyu said. Of course not. It's just that I'm very restrained. I don't want women to affect my cultivation. Why? My clan was once slaughtered. Before that, I was tied down by my clan and couldn't focus on cultivating. You plan to be alone forever? After I become stronger, I will definitely create the Han family again. It's just that I'm not strong enough. Oh, then, how strong do you want to be? At least a grand unity true immortal. You might laugh at me. How can a slave like me reach the grand unity true immortal realm? Hanju smiled. Hanyu heard his laughter and felt bitter. Hanju suddenly asked. If I can give you the Tao technique to reach the grand unity true immortal realm, what are you willing to do? Hanyu was stunned. His first reaction was vigilance. Could the other party be a sinister devil? This was not the first time he had encountered a sinister cultivator who was good at lying from the mortal world to the immortal world. However, for some reason, Hanyu wanted to trust him. This feeling terrified him. The other party must have used some bewitching technique on him. No, I want to wake up. Hanyu's expression turned sinister. Hanju was surprised. What was this kid doing? After a while, Hanyu said, Thank you for your kind intentions, senior. Forget it, I'll rely on myself. If you miss this opportunity, you might not encounter it again. Are you really going to reject me? I've made up my mind. Hanju remained silent. He had been rejected. Hanju immediately disappeared. Hanyu heaved a sigh of relief. He had really suffered a lot today. Fortunately, his Tao heart was firm. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes with a strange expression. He had been kind enough to give him an opportunity, but he had been rejected. It had been a long time since he had been rejected. This feeling was quite strange. In that case, I want to see if you will regret it. Hanju snorted in thought. Kid, cultivation doesn't rely on determination. Then, Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. He cultivated for 1,000 years. When he opened his eyes again, the first person he looked at was Hanyu. After 1,000 years, Hanyu had changed sections. This kid had just been hunted down by the famous race not long ago, and was hiding in a valley cultivating. His cultivation level had just stepped into the Grand Unity Earth Immortal Realm. He had only increased his cultivation by so little in 1,000 years. His potential could not be said to be poor. It could only be said to be mediocre. After the heavenly Tao restarted, the various mortal worlds reappeared. However, the transformation rules for ascension had yet to appear. Therefore, Hanyu's cultivation level was completely cultivated step by step. The cultivation technique he cultivated was still the one Han Tua had left for his son. Chapter 581 Forcefully imparting the technique, becoming the Tao ancestor. Chapter 581 Forcefully imparting the technique, becoming the Tao ancestor. Since Hanju had nothing to do, he decided to find Hanyu again. It would also add a hint of fun to his boring cultivation years. He cast a spell, and his dermic powers transformed into a clone. Suppressing his cultivation to the pseudo-sage realm, he went to find Hanyu. In the valley, Hanyu wore a purple-blue robe and had a handsome face. His long hair scattered casually as he sat under the tree. His aura was like the surrounding flowers and trees. The scene was extremely peaceful. Hanju appeared under the tree beside him. The tree's shade covered his face. He stared at Hanyu and did not disturb him immediately. After 1,000 years, Hanyu had already lost his childishness. It had to be said that he was really like Hanju. Looking at Hanyu, Hanju felt like he was looking at his past self. It was not only his looks, but also his cultivation style. He was extremely cautious and reliable. The more Hanju looked at him, the more satisfied he was. He even wanted to bring Hanyu to the 100-peak Immortal River. But on second thought, no, Han Tua had yet to be brought back. Hanju couldn't help but laugh at himself. No wonder grandpas often liked their grandsons more than their sons. Hanju looked at Hanyu for a while before calling out to him. Hey! Hanyu jumped up in fear. A wooden spear appeared in his hand, and he looked at Hanju warily. Seeing this, Hanju wanted to laugh. After becoming a sage, he rarely encountered anything that made him laugh. It's you! Hanyu's eyes widened in shock. Hanju smiled and asked, You still remember me? If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Hanyu nodded. You came to me 1,000 years ago, wanting to teach me a cultivation technique. Then do you regret it? To be honest, I once regretted it, but I don't regret it now. I'm very satisfied with my cultivation. I'll give you another chance. Do you agree? Hanyu fell silent. Hanju wasn't in a hurry. He waited patiently. As he did, his main body looked at the 9 heavens. Feng Liang was still absorbing the natural source of the world. The sages actually couldn't sense it, and no one came to stop him. This puzzled Hanju. Hanju asked silently, Why is Feng Liang doing this? 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 10 billion years. This was already equivalent to the value of the heavenly Tao. Hanju immediately chose to continue. He did not enter an illusion. Instead, a line of words appeared in front of him. Feng Liang. Late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Tao Ancestor Inheritor. Master of the Heavenly Court Immeasurable Emperor. He is currently fusing with the Tao Ancestor's will. Once the fusion succeeds, he will become the Tao Ancestor. Hanju's eyes widened. Become the Tao Ancestor? What was the meaning of this? And his cultivation level increased so quickly. Is Feng Liang possessed? It's not possession but a fusion. This fusion cannot be analyzed with the system's current strength. Fusion? Hanju frowned and asked. If the fusion succeeds, will Feng Liang become my enemy? It cannot be deduced for the time being. It involves an existence that surpasses the system's limits. How strong will Feng Liang be after the fusion? 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Perfected pseudo-sage. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Feng Liang couldn't threaten him. However, this leap was truly ridiculous. As expected of the Tao Ancestor. At this moment, Hanyu replied, I still refuse your kind intentions. I want to see how far I can go by myself. I don't want to rely on others. He spoke very sincerely, and his eyes became extremely firm. Hanju said angrily, How far can you go by yourself? Although Hanyu couldn't see his expression, he could guess from his tone that the other party should be very dissatisfied. I'm not sure either. Perhaps I can reach the Grand Unity Heaven Immortal Realm. When Hanyu said these words, his eyes revealed a hint of confidence. Hanju sighed. Grand Unity Heaven Immortal. To mortals, Grand Unity Heaven Immortal was indeed impressive, like an immortal. Hanju smiled. Is that so? Since you rejected me, I have to teach you a Tao technique. He suddenly attacked and sucked Hanyu in front of him. Hanyu's eyes widened, and he subconsciously resisted. Hanju pointed at his forehead. Boom! Hanyu's mind exploded, and he froze on the spot. After a long while, when Hanyu woke up, it was already late at night. He was the only one left in the valley. Hanju was long gone. Hanyu was stunned. 6 Paths of Reincarnation Technique. In the Taoist Temple of the 100-Peak Immortal River, Hanju sent a dream to Feng Liang. In the dream, Feng Liang opened his eyes and immediately bowed when he saw him. Hanju asked, What are you doing? Feng Liang replied, Absorbing the heavenly Tao's providence. He suddenly hesitated, not knowing if he should answer. Hanju didn't point it out either, hoping that Feng Liang could say it himself. After struggling for a while, Feng Liang gritted his teeth and said, To be honest, Grandmaster, I might become the Tao Ancestor. Become the Tao Ancestor? Hanju pretended to be confused. Feng Liang took a deep breath and said seriously, I've long been chosen by the Tao Ancestor. He taught me the mystical power of the primordial world, and wants to support me into his avatar. Once I succeed, I'll transform into the Tao Ancestor and control the heavenly Tao. Now, I can no longer repay you, Grandmaster. If I succeed, I will definitely take care of the hidden sect in the future and repay your kindness. If not for you changing my fate, I would have died long ago, much less be chosen by the Dao ancestor. Hanju asked, after becoming the Dao ancestor, will you still be you? Fang Liang said, the Dao ancestor said that I'll still be me, but I'll take over the Dao ancestor's identity. I chose to believe him. Have you really decided? I hope Grandmaster can agree. In that case, it's up to you, Hanju said. He took a step forward and reached out to Fang Liang's shoulder. Unknowingly, you're already so old. Hanju sighed. He was not acting. He was really sighing. When the two of them first met, Fang Liang was only a youth. After 70,000 years, not many people had lived together since the reroll world. Hanju still cherished it. However, everyone had their own ambitions. Hanju didn't want to force Fang Liang. Fang Liang felt bitter when he heard that. His expression became complicated. He did not cry. He was once the heavenly emperor, after all. He was no longer a mortal. The two of them looked at each other in silence. The dream ended. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. He muttered to himself, he can already hold his own. I want to know if the Dao ancestor deceived Fang Liang. It involves an existence that surpasses the system's limits. It cannot be deduced. Indeed, Hanju had to change his question. What will Fang Liang do when the next calamity begins? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju fell into an illusion. When he opened his eyes again, he arrived outside the 33rd heaven. A majestic palace could be seen ahead. It was larger than all the sage Dao fields. It emitted purple light and was solemn and mysterious. 3 words were carved on a plaque. Purple Firmament Palace. The scene in front of Hanju shrank. He came to Purple Firmament Palace, and Fang Liang, who was dressed in a Taoist robe, sat on the 36th grade green lotus seat. The current Fang Liang had white hair. Although his face was still young, he was very different from the Fang Liang that Hanju knew. This aura was extremely similar to Ancestor Shitian. Chapter 582 Son of the Immeasurable Calamity, Visit from an Old Friend. Chapter 582 Son of the Immeasurable Calamity, Visit from an Old Friend in Purple Firmament Palace. Fang Liang slowly opened his eyes, and his gaze met Hanju's. Hanju thought that he had been discovered, but a figure passed through him and walked towards Fang Liang. He focused his gaze. Wasn't this Heavenly Venerate Xian Du? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du came forward and knelt in front of Fang Liang. Greetings, Dao Ancestor. Fang Liang asked indifferently, how was it? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du replied, I've already found that chaotic fiend celestial. I can put it in the heavenly Dao at any time to fight against the Son of the Immeasurable Calamity. Yes, when the Son of the Immeasurable Calamity steps into the pseudo-sage realm, I'll release the chaotic fiend celestial. Understood. Hanju was curious. Release the chaotic fiend celestial? Who was the Son of the Immeasurable Calamity? For some reason, Hanju felt that it would be Han Tua. After the illusion ended, Hanju immediately asked who this Son of the Immeasurable Calamity was. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Etion. Rank 1 Immortal Emperor, Son of the Heavenly Dao, Chaotic Fiend Celestial, the great providence bearer chosen by the Heavenly Dao. He carries the mission of unifying the immortal world. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was not his son. From the looks of it, Fang Liang was not targeting the hidden sect. Not bad. Hanju shook his head and threw away his distracting thoughts. He started cultivating. Time passed as the immortal world changed day by day. From time to time, mighty figures would appear. The immortal world became more and more exciting. The legend of the sages became vaguer and vaguer. The gazes of all living beings also landed beside him. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Li Daokong, Shi Dudao, Ji Xianxian, Jiang Dugu, the Golden Crow Demon Emperor, the Dragon King of the Eastern Sea, the Divine Might Buddha, and the others became the top and most prestigious mighty figures in the immortal world. As for Han Tua, although he had a good relationship with Etion, He kept a low profile and was not famous. On this day, Zhou Fan returned. Han Ju opened his eyes and moved him into the 100-peak immortal river. He also checked his attributes panel. 1,720 years had passed. Zhou Fan's return caused the personal disciples to gather. The Fusang tree became lively. Han Ju didn't pay attention to Zhou Fan, but checked his emails. Your grand disciple Feng Liang has fused with the heavenly Tao origin. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend, heavenly venerate Wuxia, was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Emperor Xiao was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has recruited disciples. The providence of the Jie school has increased, and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by the ancient master of calamity. Your good friend Shi Dudao was attacked by your good friend Li Daokong. Your good friend Li Xianao was attacked by your good friend Jiang Dugu, and was severely injured. The level of his friends was too high. It was very difficult to see a situation where the number of attacks exceeded 10,000. When mighty figures fought, it was almost always a one-on-one battle. After all, at that level, there were not dozens of people joining forces. Dozens of Zenith Heavens ganging up on a Zenith Heaven cultivator? It was a rare event. Han Ju was attracted by Huang Zuantian's recent situation. This fellow had begun to develop the Jie school, and his providence had also increased greatly. He was quite something. The Jie school was about to suffer. According to Han Ju's understanding, this fellow was only suitable for internal strife, and not management. Back then, Huang Zuantian's sect had fallen at Han Ju's feet. That was also the stepping stone for him, to open up the path of invincibility. However, the Jie school's calamity had nothing to do with Han Ju. Several days later, Zhou Fan came to visit him. Han Ju let him in. After bowing, Zhou Fan said, Master, an array formation has appeared in the chaotic city. It can lead to the deity realm of the ruins of End. The other sects have already sent disciples there to learn. The hidden sect has no background in the deity realm of the ruins of End, but the sages have sent me an invitation. They say that the Tao field in the deity realm of the ruins of End can accept disciples of the hidden sect and comprehend the great Tao. This matter is too big. I don't dare to rashly decide, so I came back to ask you. Han Ju asked, why not say it through the myriad worlds projection? Zhou Fan chuckled. I wanted to come back and rest. The chaotic city is really boring. The disciples of the various sects look harmonious, but they are actually wary of each other. It's meaningless. Han Ju said, the chaotic city is very important. You have to return after resting for a period of time. I understand. What about the Tao field of the deity realm of the ruins of End? No, reject the sage's kind intentions. My hidden sect will stay in the heavenly Tao and not involve itself with the deity realm of the ruins of End. Will the difference increase? If it's really that easy, why didn't their backing in the deity realm of the ruins of End attack when they were in danger? You mean, you can leave. All right. Zhou Fan stood up and left. After walking out of the Taoist temple, he was still thinking about the deity realm of the ruins of End. He suddenly saw Zhang Ju. I'm really confused. I don't even know my master's background. Why should I worry? Zhou Fan shook his head and laughed. Then he stopped thinking about it. He believed in Han Ju. Several months later, the 100-peak immortal river welcomed another visitor. Is Han Ju here? The newcomer stood on the cliff and shouted. Han Ju opened his eyes. An old friend. Zhang Guxing. He was once a prodigy of the Divine Palace. Later, he guarded the Sword Dao River. Han Ju even recognized him as his elder brother. After thinking about it, Han Ju moved Zhang Guxing into his Taoist temple. Zhang Guxing was only at the one mystic divine origin realm. In Han Ju's eyes, he was no different from an ant. The only difference was that he had seen this ant before. Back then, in order to save Zhang Guxing, Han Ju cursed his enemy to death. They were even. The reason why Han Ju met him was mainly that he thought that he had taken care of Han Tua. Zhang Guxing was stunned when he saw him. Han Ju was also sizing him up. After not seeing him for tens of thousands of years, he looked even older. Now it was impossible for Han Ju to call him brother anymore. He couldn't bear it either. Zhang Guxing came back to his senses. With a complicated expression he said, "Greetings, immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage." Hanju smiled. "Why are you bowing to me? How have you been?" He could deduce what had happened to Zhang Guxing recently, but he felt that there was no need to do anything. Some things could be done easily, but sometimes knowing everything made it boring. Zhang Guxing smiled bitterly. "No, that's why I came to find you. To be honest, I don't want to get help from old friends, but I had no choice but to look for you." Hanju waved his hand, and a mat appeared behind Zhang Guxing. Zhang Guxing sat down and began to talk about his difficulties. It turned out that he wanted to recreate the Divine Palace, and had already invited Han Tuo, Immortal Emperor Samsara, and other genius mighty figures. However, every time he created the Providence sect, it was isolated by the sages of the Heavenly Tao's Providence, and had never succeeded. Regarding Han Tuo, Zhang Guxing didn't hide anything. He guessed that Han Tuo was Hanju's son, so he had taught him the Sword Tao mystical power, and even saved him. After understanding Han Tuo's understanding of his father, he was smart enough not to expose him. Hanju didn't expect Immortal Emperor Samsara to also join the Divine Palace. On second thought, it was probably because of Han Tuo. Immortal Emperor Samsara had watched Hanju grow up. If even Zhang Guxing could guess Han Tuo's identity, how could Immortal Emperor Samsara not? Immortal Emperor Samsara should also want to use the Divine Palace to officially step into the stage of the immortal world and fight for Providence. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce, and deduced that the sage who stopped Zhang Guxing from recreating the Divine Palace was the South Extreme, Heavenly Venerate. Chapter 583 Establishment of the Divine Palace. Hanju's Anticipation. Chapter 583 Establishment of the Divine Palace. Hanju's anticipation. After Zhang Guxing finished speaking, Hanju fell into deep thought. Since Han Tuo and Immortal Emperor Samsara wanted to enter the Divine Palace, Hanju naturally wouldn't stop them. He couldn't put all the eggs in one basket. If all the major factions in the immortal world had disciples of the hidden sect, it would be easier for them to survive in the future. Although Hanju was so strong now, and the hidden sect looked invincible, who knew what the future would be like? Didn't the Almighty Tao sect also disband in the end? Hanju said, "I'll help you convince them." Hearing this, Zhang Guxing was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly thanked him. Not long ago, Hanju also thanked him like this. Zhang Guxing looked up and asked, "Han Tuo still doesn't know his background. What do you plan to do?" Hanju replied, "Maintain the current situation. I have my own plans." "All right." Hanju waved his sleeve and moved Zhang Guxing out to prevent the two of them from falling into an awkward situation. Tens of thousands of years were enough time to change a lot of things. At least, the relationship between the two had become subtle. Hanju wasn't in the mood to reminisce. He believed that Zhang Guxing was also not in the mood to chat. That was the truth. After leaving the 100-peak Immortal River, Zhang Guxing heaved a sigh of relief. He smiled bitterly and muttered to himself, "Sages are really impressive." Sitting in front of Hanju, he felt extremely stressed. His heartbeat accelerated every time he looked at the other party. Although it was rough, the difference between the two was too great. He couldn't stabilize his Tao heart at all. No matter what, Hanju agreed to his request. He knew Hanju very well. He wouldn't make a promise easily. He was definitely confident. Looking back at the past, Zhang Guxing sighed. The youth who had been trapped in the mortal world by the vermilion bird and did not dare to ascend had actually become a sage now. Zhang Guxing didn't think that Hanju's potential was good. No matter how good his potential was, he couldn't have become a sage in tens of thousands of years. Presumably, Hanju was a sage himself, and had only descended into the mortal world to train. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. The Divine Palace in my hands will surpass my predecessors. Zhang Guxing thought with a burning gaze, and immediately flew into the sky. On the other side, Hanju sent a dream to the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate agreed readily, and said that he was willing to give Hanju face. He even chatted with him for a while, and agreed to discuss the Tao. After the dream ended, Hanju cursed silently. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate was really shameless. He wouldn't hit a smiling person. Because of this, Hanju owed the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate a favor. However, as long as the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate didn't oppose him, he could still tolerate it. 80 years later, I, Zhang Guxing, follow the will of my predecessors and recreate the Divine Palace. Those with outstanding potential in the myriad worlds can enter the Divine Palace. The Divine Palace is ranked by potential. I want to create a sect that is absolutely fair to the prodigies. I want to use my own strength to fight for the Heavenly Tao's providence. Zhang Guxing's voice resounded throughout the immortal world, but it did not attract much attention. Ever since the birth of the famous race, the mighty figures who established providence sects would use certain gimmicks to promote themselves immortal world. Hanju counted with his fingers. Han Tua and immortal Emperor Samsara had already joined the Divine Palace. Not only them, but even the previous sect master of the Jie school, Jing Tiangong, and the demon saint, Yi Tian had joined it. Currently, the Divine Palace had more than 10,000 disciples. Other than Jing Tiangong and immortal Emperor Samsara, there were no Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals for the time being. Hanju turned his gaze to Hanyu. Ever since he cultivated the 6 paths of reincarnation technique, Hanyu's cultivation level had increased day by day. However, compared to Han Tua, his potential was too poor. Currently, there was no hope of him reaching the deity realm unless Hanju thought of a way to increase his potential. Hanju did not have any expectations. This only added a hint of joy to his boring cultivation years, just like the dramas in his previous life. The one he really looked forward to was Han Tua. Hanju hoped that his son could transform into a primordial fiend celestial. Hanyu was still in seclusion in the valley. Hanju looked away after a while and continued cultivating above the sea of clouds. Palaces floated one after another. Countless figures shuttled back and forth, casting spells on the palaces and condensing them. Dressed in black, Han Tua stood in front of the door of a palace. He looked at the steadily increasing Divine Palace inside. After cultivating for so long, he finally had a place to stay. The Divine Palace was newly established. He was one of the core members, and was currently one of its leaders. He knew very well that compared to the other leaders, he was the weakest. The new Jing Tiangong even raised doubts. At that time, Yi Tian almost attacked him. Fortunately, Zhang Guxing and immortal Emperor Samsara stood up to support him. This matter ended there. Someone doubted. Han Tua was not angry. Instead, he was stimulated. After watching the Divine Palace disciples for a while, Han Tua turned around and entered his chamber to continue cultivating. Sitting on the mat, Han Tua closed his eyes. He was suddenly pulled into a dream. This was a forest. A figure shining with divine light stood in front of him. Han Tua was shocked. What happened? How can I not notice? Han Tua looked at the other party warily and asked in a low voice, "Who are you?" The divine light figure was naturally Hanju. Hanju asked in an ethereal voice, "I see that you are unwilling. You seem to be dissatisfied with your cultivation. I can teach you a Tao technique, but you have to pay the price. Are you willing?" Han Tua frowned when he heard this. His first reaction was to reject, but on second thought, if the other party was so powerful and wanted to harm him, why did he have to beat around the bush? Han Tua asked, "What do I have to do? I don't even know who you are. Why should I believe you? In the past, you came looking for me. I looked for you." Han Tua frowned and fell into deep thought. He was suddenly moved. "You are the master of the hidden sect? This matter cannot be spread. I will teach you a Tao technique. You owe me your life. In the future, I need you to do something. As for whether you will offer your life, that will depend on whether you work hard enough. As long as you are strong enough, no matter how strong an opponent is, they will fall under your feet." Hanju's tone was bewitching. Han Tua fell silent again. If it was Hanju, he would definitely reject, but he wanted to know what Han Tua would choose. In fact, Hanju could use the derivation function to deduce, but there was no need. If that happened, he would lose the joy of anticipation, and it would also be a waste of his lifespan. "I agree," Han Tua said in a low voice. "I know that my potential is very strong, But it's not enough. In terms of potential, I'm inferior to Yi Tian. In terms of cultivation, I'm inferior to Jing Tiangong. I need a huge opportunity. Senior, please teach me your Dao technique. Hanju didn't say anything else, and started to preach the great Dao of extreme origin. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes. He had preached the Dao for Han Tua alone for 100 years, and had finally introduced him to the great Dao of extreme origin. Presumably, in the following period of time, Han Tuo's cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. He would also loosen the suppression on Han Tuo's bloodline, and let his potential increase again. As for Jing Tiangong, although he was his believer, Hanju didn't stop him. He was happy to see him bringing pressure to Han Tua to prevent him from stopping. Of course, if the two of them really had a death grudge, Hanju would still come forward. He had always found Jing Tiangong pleasing to the eye. Chapter 584 Li Xianeo's Ambition, Jie School's Power. Chapter 584 Li Xianeo's Ambition, Jie School's Power. The Divine Palace was created. At first, all living beings felt disdain. But in the next 1,000 years, it displayed its strength. When fighting for supreme treasures in various mystic realms, the Divine Palace's performance was eye-catching. In the same realm, very few cultivators could defeat the Divine Palace disciples. The Divine Palace's reputation became stronger, and more prodigies joined it. During this period of time, Han Tua had been cultivating in seclusion. Jing Tiangong was increasingly dissatisfied with him, thinking that he had not contributed to the Divine Palace. However, Zhang Guxing favored Han Tua, so Jing Tiangong could do nothing. Although Jing Tiangong was a pseudo-sage, his identity was very awkward because he had betrayed the Jie school. Other than the Divine Palace, he had nowhere to go. 2,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju walked out of the Taoist temple and started to preach the Tao for the hidden sect. Just like before, he preached for 100 years. After the lecture, Hanju brought Li Xianeo back to the Taoist temple. Several decades ago, Li Xianeo had returned, but Hanju did not want to interrupt the lecture, so he did not say anything after moving him in. Li Xianeo was also very sensible. He began to listen to the Tao the moment he entered, and did not disturb anyone. Li Xianeo suddenly woke up. Seeing him, he immediately knelt down. Hanju asked, "Why are you back?" Li Xianeo said, "The heavenly race has already stabilized. There's no need for me to help them anymore. I wanted to return to cultivate, and increase my cultivation. I can also help you deal with matters when I'm stronger." Hanju stared at him, and didn't reply immediately. Li Xianeo was very calm, but facing Hanju's gaze, he still felt inexplicably guilty. "That's fine. Although your potential is far inferior to your senior, you're more multi-talented than him. I happen to need your talent. The hidden sect's internal affairs require your management," Hanju said. Li Xianeo was relieved. Hanju didn't say anything else, and waved his hand to signal him to leave. Li Xianeo bowed and left. He was in a good mood on the way back. After staying in the heavenly race for a long time, he suddenly felt that it was meaningless. Although the heavenly race was rapidly becoming stronger, he knew that Hanju was behind this. He wanted to stand beside Hanju and look down at the heavenly Tao Go board from a higher angle. He believed that Hanju's vision was not only limited to the immortal world. On the other side, Hanju was reading the emails. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Some were attacked, some obtained opportunities, and some learned mystical powers. There were all sorts of things, and Hanju watched with relish. At this moment, I am the human school's heavenly venerate Xian Du. 300 years later, I will preach the Tao in the universal hall outside the 33rd heaven. All living beings can come and listen to the Tao. Heavenly venerate Xian Du began to move. Hanju could already insta-kill him, so he was not too worried. He looked at Feng Liang because of this. Feng Liang was still fusing with the Tao ancestor. This kid had already attained the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. It was too exaggerated. The enlightenment of the heavenly Tao's origin was indeed impressive. Hanju suddenly had a bold thought. If I imprison Feng Liang in the primordial heavenly prison, Will the Tao ancestor notice and stop me? The Tao ancestor is above the limits of the Tao field, and will definitely sense it. As for whether he will stop it, the system cannot derive it. Han Ju could only give up. He couldn't offend the Tao ancestor rashly. For the time being, Han Ju turned his gaze to Han Yu. This guy had already reached the cultivation level of a grand unity heaven immortal. It was not bad. The 6 paths of reincarnation technique had indeed transformed him completely. However, compared to his ancestor Han Tua, Han Yu was still far inferior. Han Tua had already stepped into the deity realm and was still cultivating in seclusion. All living beings cultivated cultivation techniques, while he cultivated the great Tao. His cultivation method was already comparable to a sage. How could his cultivation speed not be fast? Han Tua and Han Yu were both in seclusion, so Han Ju didn't have the experience of watching dramas. However, their will still satisfied him. Speaking of which, Han Ju had another descendant. Han Tuo's daughter Han Xinyuan. Han Xinyuan had died a long time ago, but she was accepted by the king of Hell Yang Tiandong. She was currently in the netherworld as a ghost servant. Yang Tiandong knew Han Tua, so he accepted her. Han Ju didn't pay too much attention to Han Xinyuan. Anyway, she was safe for the time being. Since Han Ju had nothing to do, he looked at Han Xinyuan. Han Xinyuan's job was very simple. She helped Yang Tiandong record the life and death of a certain world. There were several ghost servants in the same position, and they did their own things. It was not tiring. At this moment, Han Xinyuan was cultivating in her residence. Han Ju looked at her and did not feel a sense of intimacy. Han Xinyuan was not like Han Tua and was probably similar to her mother. After watching for a while, Han Ju lost interest. As for giving Han Xinyuan some advice, he felt that there was no need for it for the time being. It was only because Han Xinyuan did not have much desire for power. Then, Han Ju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. The descendants had their own blessing. He had to constantly become stronger in order to protect his descendants and the people around him. Most importantly, he had to protect himself. In the netherworld underworld, Yang Tiandong had just finished investigating a vengeful spirit case and could not help but sigh. Such days were too boring. He began to feel tormented. Ever since he became the king of hell, he had no time to cultivate. Occasionally, mighty figures from the world of the living came to cause trouble and wanted to use him to increase their battle achievements and become famous in the heavens. At this moment, a figure flew into the hall. Yang Tiandong looked up and was stunned. He smiled and said, "Why are you here?" It was Han Tua. After stepping into the deity realm, Han Tua already had the aura of an expert. The surrounding ghost servants couldn't help but shiver when they sensed his aura. Han Tua smiled and said, "I'm here to visit an old friend. If not for the King of Hell's help, I would have died long ago." Yang Tiandong smiled teasingly. "I think you know that your daughter is here, right?" Han Tua cupped his fists and smiled. "Thank you for your kind treatment, King of Hell. Otherwise, my daughter would have long fallen into the cycle of reincarnation and severed the karma between us. I want to see her. After all, she's the only family I have left in this world." At the mention of Han Xinyuan, Han Tua felt guilty. He had indeed forgotten about her all these years. He wondered how she was doing. "She's not the only relative you have." Yang Tiandong supported his chin with both hands and smiled faintly. Stunned, Han Tua asked in surprise, "Could it be that I still have descendants living?" Yang Tiandong shook his head and laughed. "Not only descendants. Your father is still alive. Perhaps you have other siblings, too." Yang Tiandong didn't dare to say it, afraid that he would disturb Han Ju's plan. He only said, "You also have a descendant named Han Yu. He's already a grand unity heaven immortal. If you pity him, you can take him into the divine palace. Ever since the Han family was wiped out, he has little karma and has always been alone." At the mention of Han Yu, he thought of Han Ju. Han Ju was the same back then. Speaking of which, Han Yu was much more like Han Ju. Han Yu. Han Tuo's eyes flickered as he silently remembered this name. Then, Yang Tiandong brought him to see Han Xinyuan. Immortal world in the seas. On a vast island, millions of transformed living beings sat on the mountains and plains, listening to the Tao. At this moment, the sect master of the Jie school, Huang Zuantian, stood in front of his Taoist temple and looked at the mighty figure he had invited from afar. Looking at the current Jie school, he was filled with pride. Although he had no choice but to become the sect master, under his leadership, the Jie school became stronger and stronger. They already had the right to look forward to the immortal world. A figure landed in front of him. It was a disciple. He knelt in front of Huang Zuantian and said, "Master, the heavenly ancestor has already agreed to your alliance plan and is willing to destroy the demons together." Chapter 585 80,000 years old Buzhou Divine Mountain. Chapter 585 80,000 years old Buzhou Divine Mountain. How much is the heavenly race willing to do to deal with the demons? Huang Zuantian asked. He had always looked down on demons. He felt that they were too weak and did not have a leader. The disciple replied, "The heavenly race is willing to send 500 immortal emperors after we battle the demons." 500 immortal emperors? Huang Zuantian frowned. He was a little disappointed. 500 immortal emperors might cause trouble for the deity realm, but facing Zenith Heaven, they were no different from mortals. However, this was also good. The less the heavenly race contributed, the more confident he would be when splitting the benefits. "Yes, you can leave first." "Yes." After the disciple left, Huang Zuantian continued to look at the distant lecture. There was no hurry in fighting the demons. He had to deploy them. He couldn't let the tragedy that had happened in the mortal world tens of thousands of years ago happen again. But then again, he had bumped into a sage. Otherwise, he might not have lost. Like the others, Huang Zuantian determined that Hanju was a sage and was only reincarnating to train. Huang Zuantian turned around and returned to the Taoist temple. He smiled confidently and expectantly. Now he could not pursue much. Only the sage position could make him risk everything. Time passed. More than 1,500 years passed. Detected that you are 80,000 years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately, and head to the deity realm of the ruins of N to pursue the great Tao. You can obtain a heavenly Tao spirit stone, a great Tao fragment, a supreme treasure, and a mystical power inheritance. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and do not leave the area of the heavenly Tao. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a random natural treasure. Hanju opened his eyes and cursed the dog system, trying to lure me out again. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Hanju directly chose the second option. It was impossible for him to leave the heavenly Tao. Hanju's cultivation path was to let his territory constantly expand and not go to foreign places to wander. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a great Tao fragment and a random natural treasure. Congratulations on obtaining the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Buzhou Divine Mountain. It is formed by the backbone of the giant god Pangu. It can produce Khanate Qi and increase the providence of the heavenly Tao. As long as you throw it into the ground, it can evolve by itself. Hanju was stunned. The system could even produce the Buzhou Divine Mountain? A long time ago, the Buzhou Divine Mountain was broken by the ancestral Magus. After that, all living beings could no longer see the Buzhou Divine Mountain's majesty. Hanju took it out. A small mountain floated in his hand, and he couldn't feel its weight. What was the use of this? Hanju no longer needed to rely on natural treasures to increase the spirit qi in the Tao field. The Tao field itself was filled with spirit qi. He suddenly noticed that this thing could increase the heavenly Tao's providence. He immediately had an idea. He sent a dream to Li Daokong and asked him to return. Half a day later, Li Daokong arrived outside the 100-peak Immortal River and was moved into the Tao field by him. Hanju took out the Buzhou Divine Mountain and said, "This is the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Take it and choose a vast place to put it down. It can allow you to obtain the heavenly Tao's providence. Hold it well. This is your first step to becoming a sage." Li Daokong was stunned. He had also heard of the legend of Buzhou Divine Mountain. Where did Sect Master obtain it? Shocked, Li Daokong subconsciously reached out to take the Buzhou Divine Mountain. From now on, You're the Buzhou Divine Mountain's master. You can do whatever you want with it. Hanju chuckled. Li Daokong asked, "What do you need me to do?" Hanju said, "If a living being goes to Buzhou Divine Mountain, you can also accept it and help increase your providence. Without merit, it's very difficult to become a sage. Of course, if you want to use your strength to attain the Tao, that's fine too, but the time needed is immeasurable. Since ancient times, every sage has relied on the heavenly Tao purple qi to become a sage. There are too few cultivators who use their strength to attain the Tao." Li Daokong had no system and was not a primordial fiend celestial. Hanju didn't believe that he could use his strength to attain the Tao. Even if he had this potential, he couldn't escape the heavenly Tao's karma. The reason Hanju could was that he didn't rely on the heavenly Tao at all, and had been cultivating in the system's Tao field. The heavenly Tao couldn't restrain him. "I understand," Li Daokong said in a low voice, his heart filled with gratitude. Hanju really wanted to help him become a sage. Hanju waved his sleeve and moved Li Daokong out. The path had been paved. What to do next was up to Li Daokong. Hanju hoped that Li Daokong could control the heavenly Tao alone. This way, he wouldn't be restricted by it. 74 years later, I am the first guardian of the hidden sect Li Daokong. Today, I have restored the Buzhou Divine Mountain and strengthened the heavenly Tao's providence. All sword cultivators of the myriad worlds can come to the Buzhou Divine Mountain to ask about the sword Tao. Li Daokong's voice suddenly resounded through the myriad worlds. At the same time, all the cultivators above the deity realm could sense that the providence in the east had increased. This time, even the sages outside the 33rd heaven were alarmed. They gathered in the heavenly venerate Xiandu's hall. "Is it really the Buzhou Divine Mountain?" "Indeed. I've seen the Buzhou Divine Mountain before. This aura is correct." "How did Hanju obtain it?" "I'm not sure. It might be formed by some mystical power." With this move, Li Daokong's position as a future sage is stable. The sages sighed. Even heavenly venerate Xiandu was the same. The masters of the sages, Wuxia, and heavenly venerate Xiandu had all seen Buzhou Divine Mountain before. They had even stayed there for a period of time. Looking at the majestic huge vein rising, they felt as if they were seeing the vicissitudes of the primordial world. After putting down Buzhou Divine Mountain, a huge heavenly Tao merit descended from the sky and landed on Li Daokong. The Buzhou Divine Mountain was vast and could produce endless Kanate Qi. It could nurture countless living beings. This merit was extremely great, and was enough to increase Li Daokong's cultivation level by a minor realm. As more and more living beings appeared on the Buzhou Divine Mountain in the future, the providence of the heavenly Tao that nurtured Li Daokong was even more unimaginable. Li Daokong immediately became famous in the heavens. The hidden sect became famous again. A guardian was already so powerful. How strong was the sect master, the immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage? In a valley in the immortal world, Hanyu stood up and looked to the east. He muttered, "Buzhou Divine Mountain Sword Cultivator." Ever since he ascended, he had been wandering around aimlessly. Now that such an opportunity had appeared, he felt that this was his chance. Not hesitating, he immediately flew towards the majestic aura. Perhaps he could even acknowledge the mighty figure named Li Daokong as his master. It was not only Hanyu. Countless living beings in the myriad worlds had such thoughts. 13th Heaven. Ji Xianxin stood in a courtyard and looked down at the sea of clouds. Good move. As expected of master. Ji Xianxin was secretly shocked. The Buzhou Divine Mountain's providence was truly terrifying. It had just landed, and was already more majestic than his entire heavenly race. Such a method was definitely used by Hanju to support Li Daokong. Recalling the legends of the Buzhou Divine Mountain, he suddenly understood. Legend had it that the Buzhou Divine Mountain was formed by the creation of the giant god Pangu, Qiuliang. The heavenly Tao was the will of the giant god Pangu. How could the appearance of the Buzhou Divine Mountain not receive a response from the heavenly Tao? Ji Xianxin frowned. Wait, if Li Daokong had the Buzhou Divine Mountain, would he still guard the heavenly race? The hidden sect immortal emperors in the heavenly race would probably also leave. Chapter 586 Jing Tiangong's Despair. Han Yu's determination. Chapter 586 Jing Tiangong's despair. Han Yu's determination. While Ji Xianxian was worried, Feng Liang, who was on the ninth heaven, was also shocked. Feng Liang was still constantly absorbing the heavenly Tao origin. But with the appearance of the Buzhou Divine Mountain, his absorption speed slowed down. What happened? Feng Liang was a little panicked. The sudden change might affect his fusion with the Tao ancestor. Furthermore, the other party was also from the hidden sect. Grandmaster supported both the heavenly race and Li Daokong. What is he doing? Feng Liang frowned, feeling puzzled. Wasn't Han Ju not interfering? If this continued, wouldn't the heavenly Tao in the future be completely controlled by him? The more Feng Liang thought about it, the more shocked he became. Unknowingly, Han Ju had already planned so deeply. He was very curious about where Han Ju obtained the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Time passed quickly. Another 1,000 years passed quickly. Han Ju opened his eyes and looked at the Buzhou Divine Mountain first. The current Buzhou Divine Mountain was 9 trillion kilometers tall. It could connect to 9 heavens. It was unknown how long it was, but it stretched for more than 10 regions. Countless living beings lived on the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Their providence was boundless. Li Daokong had also reached the late stage of the pseudo-sage realm because of this. Li Daokong had already accepted hundreds of thousands of disciples. Their potentials were all different. Even Han Yu had become his disciple. In just 1,000 years, the Buzhou Divine Mountain had already become a major force in the immortal world that could not be underestimated. However, this colossus did not reveal its ambitions and was not a threat to the other factions for the time being. The current immortal world was becoming more and more interesting. The heavenly race, the famous race, the demons, the loose heaven sect, the sage sect, the human race, the Buzhou Divine Mountain, the Divine Palace, the Dragon Palace, the underworld, and so on were all complicated. Han Ju could finally experience the feeling of a sage. He was high and mighty. Everything was in his control. It was like playing chess, but when the game annoyed you, you could overturn it. However, relying on your own skills to win against your opponent was even more satisfying than overturning the game. Han Ju was playing chess now. After cultivating for so long, it was quite interesting to occasionally plot. Now, the sages did not dare to target him, including his forces, which made him very bored. Han Ju wasn't in a hurry. As the hidden sect's size increased, the sages would react sooner or later. Han Ju looked at Han Yu. This guy was cultivating in a small corner of the Buzhou Divine Mountain. His karma with Li Daokong was very shallow. The two of them should have never met. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. With Li Daokong's personality, he probably did not have the time to see all the living beings on the mountain. Han Ju looked at Han Tua now. This fellow had already proved himself in the Divine Palace. Even Jing Tiangong no longer made things difficult for him, because this kid's cultivation level was quickly catching up to Etian. Han Tuo's rise also stimulated Etian. He no longer fought everywhere, and was recently busy cultivating in seclusion. Peace is awesome. Han Ju sighed. He hoped that such a period of time would last for billions of years. At that time, his great Tao would definitely be invincible. When he was invincible, he wouldn't cause trouble. He would travel around and enjoy the chaotic scenery. Han Ju read the emails for a while more and continued cultivating happily. Divine Palace, in a dark palace. Jing Tiangong sat on the throne with a lazy posture. He wore a blood-patterned black robe and a crown. He was extremely dignified. A black shadow suddenly appeared in the hall. It swayed like a candle flame. Sect Master. It's not good for the disciples of the Divine Palace to have internal discord. The black shadow said in a low voice with a helpless tone. Jing Tiangong frowned. Why? Aren't there many disciples who are discouraged because their potential is inferior? The black shadow smiled bitterly. It's not about potential, but the legend of the dark forbidden lord is too distant. Many disciples don't believe it. Hearing this, Jing Tiangong frowned even more and cursed in a low voice. A bunch of ignorant worms. The black shadow said. The other disciples of the darkness sect have already infiltrated the various sections. The situation is roughly the same. The legends of the Dark Forbidden Lord are really too few. It's very difficult to believe. Jing Tiangong couldn't help but sigh. The black shadow was silent. After a long while, Jing Tiangong waved his sleeve and said, "Go down. I will ask the Dark Forbidden Lord. Soon, the terror of the Dark Forbidden Lord will be displayed to all living beings." Yes. The black shadow dissipated. Jing Tiangong looked up at the top of the hall. It was a scene of a galaxy, bright and beautiful. "Dark Forbidden Lord, when can you visit my dreams? I can't do it anymore." Jing Tiangong felt a little despair. Why did the Dark Forbidden Lord disappear after the calamity ended? At the Buzhou Divine Mountain, Han Tuo strolled through the mountains. Along the way, he could see many living beings cultivating. Fighting and killing were forbidden here, so it was very quiet. The living beings here didn't even dare to roar, afraid that they would alarm Li Daokong. Senior Li is truly powerful. He actually created such a divine mountain. Han Tuo sighed. Along the way, the Buzhou Divine Mountain's magnificence shocked him. Even as a deity realm existence, he felt tiny when facing the Buzhou Divine Mountain. The Khanate Qi on the mountain was extremely dense. It was not something that the Divine Palace Dao Field could compare to. Several days later, Han Tuo came to a cave. The goal of this trip was to find Han Yu. However, after coming here, he was immersed and delayed for a few days. Han Tuo had already captured the aura in the cave abode. It was Han Yu. "It's indeed my bloodline," Han Tuo muttered to himself as the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He didn't expect his descendant to be so outstanding. He suddenly felt that he was not alone. "Young friend inside, come out." As Han Tuo spoke, he subconsciously placed his hands behind his waist and assumed the posture of a senior. Han Yu carefully walked out of the cave abode. He was stunned when the sunlight shone on him. Han Tuo couldn't help but mutter, "Father." Han Yu frowned and asked warily, "Who are you? Why are you calling me your father?" He didn't dare to say anything else, afraid that he would offend this person. He could sense that Han Tuo was stronger than him. Han Tuo came back to his senses. His gaze softened as he smiled and said, "My name is Han Tuo." Han Tuo. Han Yu's eyes widened. He had not forgotten this name. Clang. Han Yu drew his sword and charged at him. Han Tuo frowned and flicked his finger. Han Yu was sent flying and crashed into the mountain wall. He gritted his teeth and stood up. He wanted to continue attacking, but he was suppressed by a powerful dermic power. He wasn't the only one. Han Tuo couldn't move either. Han Tuo turned to look at the top of the mountain and said, "Senior Li, I'm sorry. We won't fight anymore. He's my descendant. I'm here to find him." Li Daokong did not reply, but the dermic powers that bound the two dissipated. Han Yu gritted his teeth. "Why are you looking for me?" Han Tuo understood why he was so angry. After all, the Han family had been wiped out. "Now that I'm one of the Divine Palace's leaders, I have some authority. Follow me and suffer less in the future," Han Tuo said patiently. Han Yu snorted. "No. Why? Back then I begged you, but you didn't reply. Now, I won't beg you anymore. Do you think it's my fault that the Han family was destroyed?" Han Yu was silent. This matter was indeed not related to Han Tuo. It could only be said that the Han family was too weak and couldn't protect itself. He took a deep breath and said, "It's indeed not your fault, but I won't go with you. Han Tuo, just you wait. I'll surpass you sooner or later. I'll wait for the day you ask me for help." Chapter 587, Controlling the Divine Palace, Constantly Planning. Chapter 587, Controlling the Divine Palace, Constantly Planning. Facing Han Yu shouting, Han Tuo shook his head and laughed. He wasn't angry. This kid didn't understand the importance of potential. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't compare to him. Han Tuo also understood his potential. He already had the chaotic physique. Only a few people in the world could reach this realm. As his own descendant, he could tell that his bloodline was diluted through the generations. No matter how strong Han Yu's potential was, it would not be that strong. Han Tuo asked, "Are you really not coming with me?" "No." "Fine." Han Tuo did not stand on ceremony and left. Han Yu watched him leave with a complicated expression until he disappeared on the other side of the mountain range. Just you wait." Han Yu snorted and entered the cave abode. He didn't hate Han Tuo. He only wanted to prove to him that he did not need to rely on his ancestor. No. Han Yu stopped in his tracks. He suddenly thought of that ancestor's ancestor. He had been in the immortal world for so long, but he had never encountered that ancestor. He had a feeling that that ancestor was definitely an extraordinary existence. I have to prove it to him. Han Yu's fighting spirit soared and his eyes became firm. At the same time, on the peak of the Buzhou Divine Mountain, in an ordinary-looking stone hall, Li Daokong was thinking, "This child looks so similar to the sect master. I actually didn't notice that the Han family was wiped out, and only he survived." Li Daokong pinched his fingers to deduce Han Tuo's descendant, and learned of the Han family's situation. He suddenly felt that Han Ju might have specially arranged for Han Yu to survive. Could it be that this kid possessed potential that he was unable to see through? The more Li Daokong thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. After all, Han Yu was too similar to Han Ju. Another 1,000 years passed. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Han Ju left his cultivation state on time. He pinched his fingers to deduce and deduced Han Tuo and Han Yu's encounter. He was amused. There was a good show to watch. If there were no accidents, it was impossible for Han Yu to threaten Han Tuo. Han Ju thought for a moment, and decided to support Han Yu, and let him provoke Han Tuo in the future. Of course, he wouldn't reveal this thought to prevent Han Yu from thinking too much. He wasn't afraid that Han Tuo would be agitated after knowing the truth. He had helped Han Tuo many times in the dark. If this kid was still an ingrate, he would throw him into the primordial heavenly prison. In Han Ju's heart, no one was more important than himself. This was also the reason why he could reach this point. If he risked everything for others, Han Ju might have died on the path of cultivation already. We'll see in the future. Let him cultivate for a period of time first. Han Ju thought silently. There was still a long time. He didn't have to be rash and immediately help Han Yu. He started checking his emails. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by a mysterious pseudo-sage and was severely injured. Your disciple Ji Xianxian was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Zhang Guxing was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your son Han Tuo was cursed by a mysterious curse and was severely injured. Your good friend Immortal Emperor Samsara was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Empress Hutu discussed the Tao with a mysterious sage. Her cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Jing Tiangong has cursed too many times and has encountered heavenly punishment. He has developed mental demons. Your good friend Dijuan crossed the river of destiny and was attacked by an ancient chaotic deity. Huang Zuantian had indeed suffered a failure. Han Ju couldn't help but mourn for him. Huang Zuantian was already a pseudo-sage. It was very difficult for him to die in the immortal world. So Han Ju was not worried about his life. Looking down, Jing Tiangong was courting death. This fellow must have pretended to be the dark forbidden lord and suffered a backlash. Han Ju decided to find him later. He also saw Dijuan being attacked by the ancient chaotic deity. These ancient existences were really rare. Existences like Ancestor Shitian, Jade Bodhi, Seven Tao Sage, Dijuan, and other transcendent great Tao existences rarely appeared in the emails, let alone being attacked. Their circle was too novel to Han Ju. It was unknown what transcendent Tao expert and great Tao divine spirit would do other than cultivate. Was it boring? After becoming strong enough, there was nothing worth pursuing. It was indeed very boring. Han Ju laughed at himself. He was really worrying for nothing. He continued reading. Almost all his good friends outside were moving. Without deducing, Han Ju let his imagination run wild and found it very interesting. After reading all the emails, Han Ju sent a dream to Jing Tiangong and used the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. In the dream, Jing Tiangong was extremely excited. How many years had it been? The Dark Forbidden Lord had finally appeared. He knelt in front of Han Ju and cried in joy. He didn't have the bearing of the previous sect master of the Jie school, or a pseudo-sage at all. Han Ju used the voice of the Dark Forbidden Lord to say, "Why are you pretending to be me recently, and suffered the outcome of mental demons?" Jing Tiangong said in shame, I just want you to show your power again. You're really powerful. You can actually sense that I'm suffering the backlash of the heavenly Tao. His eyes were filled with admiration. What do you think about the Darkness sect and the Divine Palace? Hanju asked. Jing Tiangong said, the Darkness sect can only hide in the dark. I need the Divine Palace as a shell. Furthermore, it has great potential. They have two prodigies with the chaotic physique. I knew it. This fellow was going to the Divine Palace to be a traitor. Hanju said, there's no need. Cultivate well, and help the Divine Palace become stronger. One day I will appear. Before that, don't act recklessly and don't harm yourself. Hearing this, Jing Tiangong was extremely touched. Hanju continued, what you have to do now is to become as strong as possible. He thought for a moment, and raised his finger to impart to him the 5 elements divine light. This mystical power was not created by him alone. It could be traced back to the mighty Kong Xian of the primordial world. After learning this mystical power, Hanju rarely used it, so he was not afraid that others would think of him. Caught off guard, Jing Tiangong was forcefully taught a mystical power. He couldn't move. After a long while, when Jing Tiangong opened his eyes, the dream had already ended. This mystical power is so domineering. Jing Tiangong was pleasantly surprised. The 5 elements divine light could forcefully snatch an enemy's dharma treasure and forcefully break through an array formation. Snatching treasures. There was nothing it couldn't capture. Jing Tiangong rejoiced in his heart. He had benefited from a disaster. At the same time, he was more determined. Following the dark forbidden lord would definitely not be a loss. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju was in a good mood. Jing Tiangong's loyalty made him very comfortable. After the calamity, it was very precious that Jing Tiangong still respected him. His only flaw was that this fellow was too reckless. The Divine Palace was already controlled by Hanju. It could even be said that Zhang Guxing was already controlled by him. If Zhang Guxing wanted to deal with him, with a command from Hanju, Jing Tiangong, and immortal Emperor Samsara, would definitely attack him. This was the effect Hanju wanted. All the major forces were controlled by him, and the person in charge on the surface had nothing to do with him. Even if the person in charge failed, the punishment of the heavens would not fall on him. He could still enjoy these powers. Currently, Hanju didn't have any ulterior motives. He just wanted to make preparations in advance. Next, he would target the Dragon Palace and the demons. His disciple Long Hao could go to the Dragon Palace. Jiang Yi, Ada, and Xiao Er could go to the demons. However, the famous race had nothing to do with him. Hanju fell into deep thought. Against the famous race, who should be planted as a spy? Chapter 588 Heavenly Tao Providence Board. Chapter 588 Heavenly Tao Providence Board. Hanju thought about it, and decided to arrange for Tao's sovereign to join the famous race. However, he had to wait until Tao's sovereign became a pseudo-sage. Currently, the famous race did not have a pseudo-sage. If one was willing to help, they would definitely not reject him. Pseudo-sages were too rare. All those with a pseudo-sage were extraordinary forces. The power of the famous race was based on the number of clansmen, and not the top cultivation. Tao's sovereign was still very far from the pseudo-sage realm. Hanju put this matter aside, and focused on cultivation. Plotting was only convenient. His cultivation was the most important. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 3,000 years passed. Hanju ended his seclusion, and started to preach the Tao for the hidden sect. Just like before, he preached for 100 years. Before the disciples could recover, Hanju quietly left. For years later, Hanju heard a voice. Fellow Taoist Han, we have something to discuss. It involves the next sage position. You can come to the Universal Hall. It was Heavenly Venerate Xiandu's voice. Hanju hesitated for a moment before asking in his mind, will my life be in danger if I go this time? After staying at home for so long, he also wanted to go out for a walk. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. It had been a long time since his lifespan was deducted. Hanju was not used to it. No, without the word temporary. There was nothing threatening. Hanju immediately relaxed and headed towards the 33rd heaven. The door of the Universal Hall opened. Hanju flew into the hall and saw that the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate and Sect Master Tianju had already arrived. The two sages nodded at him. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du sat behind and looked at him calmly. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate took a step forward and smiled warmly. Fellow Taoist Han, you're finally willing to come out. I thought you wouldn't come again. Hanju said. I came out to take a breath of fresh air. I might be absent from the next few gatherings to cultivate. Oh, you're already so strong. Why are you still cultivating so diligently? To protect myself when the next calamity comes. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate shook his head and laughed. To protect himself, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate couldn't forget the scene of Hanju forcefully killing the Tao Heavenly Devil. Was that the power to protect himself? Sect Master Tianju also came up to greet him. However, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du didn't say anything 5 minutes later. The other sages arrived one after another. Qiu Shilai and Heavenly Venerate Wufa only nodded slightly at Hanju. It was difficult to imagine that these two sages were already his slaves. After the sages gathered, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, I called you here today to discuss whether we should leave the Heavenly Tao ranking. Fuxishan asked curiously, what is the Heavenly Tao ranking? The ranking list set for all living beings can promote the fighting spirit of all living beings. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du replied. Hanju had a strange expression. Fortunately, the divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection covered his face. Ranking? Are you playing an online game? The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate raised his eyebrows and asked. What ranking? Could it be cultivation? Cultivation can't directly determine strength. Emperor Xiao said. Tao discussion ranking? Let's talk about Dharma treasures. Everyone knows that you gave the Divine Might Buddha a Heavenly Tao numinous treasure. What's a Heavenly Tao numinous treasure? You can take out one. Qiu Shilai and the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate began to bicker. These two sages always targeted each other. The other sages were already used to it. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, how about ranking it according to the providence of the Heavenly Tao? We pursue the prosperity of the Heavenly Tao, and not the order of the wilderness where the strong eat the weak. The sages felt that it made sense. Hanju also looked at Heavenly Venerate Xian Du in a new light. If it was really ranked according to strength, Hanju would have to look down on him. It was difficult to say about providence. Some living beings might not have a strong cultivation level, but they had contributed to all living beings in the Heavenly Tao. If it was ranked according to the providence of the Heavenly Tao, a pseudo-sage might not be ranked at the top. After the sages agreed, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du began to cast his spell. It had to be said that Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was very capable. He could have done it directly, but he had to ask the sages and give them face. Li Mui's EQ was not so high. He was even petty and suspicious. From the beginning to the end, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du did not develop any favorable impression or hatred towards Hanju. It was as if Li Mui was not killed by Hanju. No sage mentioned this matter again, as if it had never happened. An hour later, we sages have decided together to create the Heavenly Tao Providence Board. All living beings in the various worlds can see the top million providence beings in the various worlds in their meditation. The providence of the immortal world is in the top 5. You can obtain the sage position before the Heavenly Tao is ripe. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice resounded throughout the myriad worlds. The sages also left. Hanju returned to the Taoist temple. The living beings in the 100-peak Immortal River were discussing the Heavenly Tao Providence Board. Hanju closed his eyes and checked the board. A golden scroll appeared in his mind. He pulled it down, listing 1,000,000 names. First place was Li Daokong. The merit providence of the Buzhou Divine Mountain was too huge. Hanju wasn't familiar with the following names. As the leader of the heavenly race, Ji Xianshan was actually ranked outside the top 10. Interesting. Next, all living beings would definitely fight for providence. There would definitely be battles, but overall, it would promote the development of the Heavenly Tao. The providence of the heavenly Tao was not just obtained from killing. If one killed too many, negative karma that went against providence would also appear. Most importantly, it was to contribute to the heavenly Tao, such as creating a race providence sect, preaching the Tao, teaching the Tao, creating a world, and so on. Great Lu's Heaven, who created the first mortal world, was ranked 18th. The sages were not on the list, but for this list, they would definitely help their disciples. Hanju watched for a while, and then started cultivating the heavenly Tao providence. Board would last for a long time. He didn't have to do anything for now. It depended on the other sages' plans. In an absolutely dark space, a beam of light alternated between illusion and reality. When he got closer, he saw that the light was emitted by a floating island. The island was filled with countless purple crystals, causing the environment on the island to be extremely dense. There were mountains and rivers on the island, forming a world of its own. However, many purple crystals were also growing on the mountains and trees. In a crystal bamboo forest, the evil heavenly emperor was meditating and cultivating. Black chi coiled around his body and occasionally transformed into the shadows of fiend celestials, fighting each other. The evil heavenly emperor wore a dragon-patterned black robe and had domineering makeup. He was terrifying and oppressive. The murderous aura between his brows was extremely heavy. From his appearance, it made others feel that he was a terrifying demon. The once dignified heavenly emperor was already like a completely different person. The evil heavenly emperor suddenly opened his eyes and saw a figure appear in front of him. His true appearance could not be seen. "What is it?" Evil heavenly emperor asked. The figure in the purple crystal let out a hoarse voice. "I've already swallowed 5 little heavenly Tao. You can choose one." Hearing this, the evil heavenly emperor was moved. "So fast. Where are those sages?" "Either dead or escaped." "All right, give me your greatest little heavenly Tao." "Yes, evil heavenly emperor. Don't disappoint me. In at most 10 billion years, I will sweep through the immortal world sooner or later. At that time, you will face all the living beings in the immortal world." "Don't worry, I won't disappoint you," the evil heavenly emperor replied confidently with anticipation in his eyes. He was looking forward to that day. Chapter 589 Transforming into a Fiend Celestial. Chapter 589 Transforming into a Fiend Celestial. After the Heavenly Tao Providence Board was established, the immortal world surged. From time to time, the voice of a mighty figure resounded in the heavens. This era was even more prosperous than the immortal world before the calamity. Hanju felt that this was his contribution. If not for him, the heavenly Tao would have been destroyed by the Tao Heavenly Devil after it restarted. If not for him, the sages would have fought openly and secretly. The immortal world would still be barren now. Sigh. Hanju felt that he was so noble. Just like that, another 1,000 years passed. Hanju was getting closer and closer to the perfected primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Breaking through before reaching 100,000 years should not be a problem. After reaching perfection, he could look forward to the freedom sage realm. One step at a time. He walked very steadily. Hanju opened his eyes and looked at the figure kneeling outside the Taoist temple. Morongqi. It had been tens of thousands of years since this child came to visit him alone. 4 years ago, when he came, Hanju didn't let him in immediately because of his OCD. So he knelt for 4 years. The door to the Taoist temple suddenly opened. Morongqi was pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly stood up and quickly walked into the Taoist temple. After entering the temple, Morongqi knelt down and bowed. "What is it?" "Grandmaster, I want to be like Uncle Master Su Qi." "Yes." Hanju sized him up. In the past, he trusted and looked forward to Morongqi's development. However, this fellow's potential was not good. Now, Hanju usually didn't think of him. Morongqi was already at the 6th mystic divine origin realm. He could be considered fast among the personal disciples, but he couldn't break through to the zenith heaven realm. "Grandmaster, this matter isn't Uncle Master Su Qi's fault. I went to ask him, but he didn't answer. I guessed it. I guess that you have the ability to change the potential of a disciple. No matter what you need me to do, I can do it." Morongqi said seriously. He yearned to become stronger too much. He was once the war god of the divine palace, but in the hidden sect, his potential was mediocre. Not to mention the other personal disciples. Even some unnamed disciples had better potential than him. Hanju said, "You might die. I'm not absolutely certain it'll work. I'm willing. I won't regret it even if I die. I believe you definitely have such a plan. I'm willing to use it as an experiment and sacrifice for the future of the other disciples. If I can succeed, I will definitely repay the hidden sect in you." Morongqi replied very firmly. If it was any other disciple, Hanju would definitely not agree. This would waste his energy. However, facing Morongqi, he was still soft-hearted. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. If Morongqi's potential increased, he would be more suitable to be the eldest disciple of the hidden sect than Dao Sovereign. Are you ready? All right. Excited, Morongqi's body trembled. Hanju's eyes narrowed. Morongqi's body turned into dust, leaving only his soul. Morongqi was stunned. Before he could react, Hanju directly took him into the primordial world. In a corner of the primordial world, 173 Fiend Celestial Qi floated together. Su Qi was already carrying a ball of Fiend Celestial Qi. Hanju had already decided which chaotic Fiend Celestial to choose. Combat Fiend Celestial. The Fiend Celestial who lived to fight was a perfect match for Morongqi's War God title. It could be seen that Hanju favored Morongqi. He wrapped Morongqi's soul with his dermic powers and pushed it towards the Fiend Celestial Qi of the Combat Fiend Celestial. Hanju could produce Fiend Celestial Qi, not only because of the grand unity aspect, but also because the primordial world had the nebulous primordial Qi, the chaotic origin stone, and other supreme treasures. With many conditions combined, there was a possibility of producing a chaotic Fiend Celestial. It was only a possibility. When Morongqi's soul fused with the Combat Fiend Celestial, an unprecedented pain caused him to roar. Hanju didn't seem to hear it, and continued to fuse. Morongqi was also very firm. He only roared instinctively and did not complain. After 300 years, Morongqi and the Combat Fiend Celestial finally condensed together. To completely fuse them still required a long time. In front of the Fiend Celestial Qi, Morongqi's soul was so weak. If not for Hanju's protection, he might have died already. Next was to let Morongqi adapt to the Fiend Celestial Qi. During this process, Morongqi endured extreme pain. On the other side, Morongqi's disappearance attracted the attention of the other personal disciples. Li Xian'eo took the opportunity to find Hanju. After knowing that Morongqi was sent by Hanju for a secret mission, he didn't ask anymore. "Sect Master, what do you think about the famous race?" Li Xian'eo asked very humbly. Hanju saw through his thoughts. This fellow wanted to take the opportunity to get closer to him. "Just speak your mind." Li Xian'eo trembled in fear and hurriedly said, "I discovered that sages are supporting the famous race, but there are no famous zenith heavens or pseudo-sages among them. I guess that the sages supporting the famous race are lone sages like Emperor Shao and Fuxishan. The famous race take in famous living beings in the heavens. This intention is very wide, and is very recognized by the heavenly Tao. Their future is limitless. The hidden sect can arrange it in advance." His thoughts were the same as his. Hanju suddenly thought of Morongqi. If Morongqi succeeded, it would be more suitable. "I know what to do. The next batch of disciples with limitless potential can go to the famous race. Sect Master is wise. I have connections in the famous race. You can tell the leader in advance, and let him be prepared." Li Xian'eo did not say anything else. He bowed and left. It was impossible for the famous race to reject the hidden sect's support. After all, the hidden sect was a sage force. Just like in the ancient times in Hanju's previous life, the sage sect was an aristocratic family. With the coming of chaos, the aristocratic families would invest everywhere. No matter which ambitious person won, the aristocratic families would benefit and survive. The opponents of the famous race, demons, and other races would never be the sage sect, because it was impossible to defeat them. On the contrary, If they accepted the support of the sages, they could climb higher. Hanju continued to stare at Morongqi. Although he could multitask, his cultivation was still affected. This was also an important reason why Hanju was unwilling to let every disciple transform into a chaotic fiend celestial. No matter how strong the disciples were, they couldn't catch up to him. He nurtured disciples only to make it more convenient for himself and the future. While Morongqi transformed into a chaotic fiend celestial, the immortal world was also changing violently. More and more mighty figures appeared and shocked the immortal world. Li Daokong had always occupied the top of the Heavenly Dao Providence Board. The rankings behind him kept changing. Ji Xianxian also forcefully entered the top 10. The heavenly race immortals preached everywhere to protect the weak living beings. The statues of the immortals stood everywhere in the immortal world, and the power of faith transformed into providence. Days passed and the world changed. 3,000 years passed. Morongqi finally adapted to the fiend celestial qi. Without Hanju's protection, he would have long been devoured by it. Hanju could finally cultivate in peace. Before this, he looked at Han Tua. This fellow was preaching to his disciples. The current Han Tua had already accepted hundreds of disciples, and there were more than 1,000 grand disciples. All of them were not mortals. Not bad. He became more and more used to his identity as a divine palace elder. Hanju looked at Hanyu next. His expression became strange. Why was Hanyu cultivating beside Li Daokong? Hanju counted with his fingers. Hanyu had become Li Daokong's disciple. Chapter 590 Li Yao creates a sect. Chapter 590 Li Yao creates a sect. This fellow is quite capable. He wanted to take me in, as his disciple in the past. Now that he sees that Hanyu looks like me, he took him in. He's truly ambitious. Hanju cursed silently. He was inexplicably unhappy to see Li Daokong accept Hanyu as his disciple. When Li Daokong returned, he had to give him an earful. Ever since he had become Li Daokong's disciple, Hanyu's cultivation level had increased day by day. He had also learned many sword Dao mystical powers, and became a true sword cultivator. Li Daokong treated Hanyu very well, and even gave him a Heavenly Dao numinous treasure sword. Heavenly Dao numinous treasures were rare treasures even to sages. Seeing this sword, Hanju's impression of Li Daokong improved again. Since he treated Hanyu sincerely, he was giving Hanju face. Hanyu was finally settled. His cultivation in the future would definitely be smooth sailing. Even if Hanju did not give him a back door, he could still become an expert. Li Daokong only had one disciple. Just as Hanju was spying on Hanyu, someone came to visit him. Li Yao. Since Hanju was free, he let her in. Li Yao walked in front of him. Although the two of them were already Dao companions, she didn't act too impudently, and was still a little respectful. Is the Heavenly Dao Providence Board very important? I want to fight for the sage position, Li Yao said bluntly. Hanju said, You're only a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. You're still far from becoming a sage. It's indeed far. But the accumulation of providence also needs time. Li Yao said seriously, The more sages there are in the hidden sect, the better. Li Daokong has the potential to become a sage, but he only joined us after he became stronger. I'm worried about him. Hanju smiled and said, This isn't like you. Li Yao said helplessly, All right, it's actually the thoughts of the other personal disciples. Hanju's heart warmed slightly. He didn't think that the personal disciples were selfish. If they were all thinking for him, they would definitely take turns to ask Hanju for the method to attain the Tao. They had chosen Li Yao to come because they saw the relationship between him and her, and it was easier to convince him. Hanju could see favorability, but it wouldn't last forever. Even 6-star favorability might also decrease. What do you think? Hanju asked. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Li Yao said. I plan to bring Dao Comprehension Sword, Fairy Shixian, Xian Qingjun, and Changyuer out to create a providence sect for women or female living beings. Such a sect has yet to appear. There's an opportunity. Hanju felt that it was feasible. What about Xing Hongxian and Tu Linger? Why aren't they going? Li Yao said. Miss Xing said that she wanted to cultivate diligently and give birth to a child for you. She wants to bear a prodigy. Tu Linger said that her identity is special and not suitable to go out. Hanju was caught between laughter and tears. These two girls definitely wanted to find him later in private. Yes, you can choose some female disciples from the 100-Peak Immortal River. When you decide to go out, just speak. I can hear you. You don't have to look for me. Thank you, Sect Master. Oh, you're still calling me Sect Master? Li Yao blushed when she heard that, but she hesitated and could not change her tone. Hanju didn't force her and let her leave. Several months later, Li Yao, Xian Qingjun, Fairy Xixian, and Chang Yu are left with more than 500 female disciples. These female disciples were all immortal emperors. With Li Yao leading the way, Hanju was not worried. If something really happened, he could sense it as long as it was in the immortal world. Time passed. 241 years later. My name is Li Yao. My master is the immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage. Today, I established the Holy Mother sect, and will take in all the women in the world as my disciples. I will teach you the sacred technique. No matter race or cultivation level, you can come to the orchid-sinking region's Chilean mountain range to join us. Li Yao's voice resounded through the myriad worlds. Her tone was solemn, making Hanju very glad. She could already hold her own. However, this name, Hanju couldn't help but think of something else. Putting aside the biases of his previous life, the Holy Mother, one, had a high status in the immortal world and could not be tainted. The other personal disciples didn't look for Hanju, which made him very satisfied. Only a pseudo-sage could leave. This was an iron rule. He couldn't change it. Unless Hanju agreed. Yeah, this was a double standard. Hanju was already close to 90,000 years old. Not in the mood to cultivate, he stood up to preach the Tao. 13th Heaven, Heavenly Race Main Hall. Ji Xianxian sat on the emperor's throne. His expression changed as the immortals in the hall discussed. The sect master of the Holy Mother sect is said to be a zenith heaven cultivator. Isn't immeasurable merit divine, might heavenly sage the master of the hidden sect? Ha ha ha. Our hidden sect has a deep foundation. Are you shocked? The first establishment of the Holy Mother sect is supported by the hidden sect. The heavenly race should go and congratulate them. It can be considered a public edict. I think so. The immortals discussed enthusiastically. The hidden sect had sent too many immortal emperors to the heavenly race, which was already equivalent to half of the hidden sect. The heavenly god general noticed that something was wrong with Ji Xianxian and asked, Heavenly ancestor, what are you thinking? With that said, the gods quietened down and looked at Ji Xianxian. The expressions of some immortals became subtle. They were all from the hidden sect. When Li Xianao left, he had instructed them not to forget their true identities. They were disciples of the hidden sect. If Ji Xianxian dared to express his dissatisfaction with the hidden sect, they would definitely not tolerate it. In their opinion, without the hidden sect, how could the heavenly race be where they were today? Ji Xianxian said, the heavenly race naturally has to congratulate the establishment of the Holy Mother sect. However, the orchid-sinking region is the territory of the Jie school. Recently, they have been preparing to attack the demons, and have formed an alliance with our heavenly race. The immortals frowned. The Jie school was a sage sect. If the Holy Mother sect established a sect in their territory, there would definitely be conflict. It was not good for the heavenly race to help anyone. The heavenly god general also frowned. Be it the hidden sect or the Jie school, they couldn't provoke any one of them. The divine general said, actually, we don't have to worry. We will definitely visit the Holy Mother sect. As for the Jie school, we'll try our best to help. Compared to the orchid-sinking region, the Jie school is more ambitious. An old immortal said, what if they want us to make a choice? The divine general was silent. Just destroy the Jie school then. A hidden sect disciple snorted, his tone wild. The other immortals of the hidden sect agreed. They were from the hidden sect, and knew that Li Yao's status in the sect was not simple. It was very easy to choose between the two. Ji Xianxian cursed silently. What was he thinking? With Hanju behind him, what was there to be afraid of? He had to choose the Holy Mother sect. In a Taoist temple in the Jie school, Huang Zuantian was meditating when a disciple rushed in and said, "Sect Master, the mountain range occupied by the Holy Mother sect is a spirit meridian of our sect. What should we do?" The Holy Mother sect's master was the immeasurable merit divine, might heavenly sage's disciple. They had no choice but to be cautious and not rashly offend her. Huang Zuantian opened his eyes and said, "The Chilean mountain range will directly belong to the Holy Mother sect. Send someone to visit them with a huge gift to state our intentions to be on good terms with the Holy Mother sect." He was in a good mood. In his opinion, the appearance of the Holy Mother sect was a good thing. Hanju finally made a move to support him. After the Holy Mother sect became stronger, they could join forces with the Jie school. They couldn't be too strong. As for whether the Holy Mother sect would affect them, Huang Zuantian was not worried at all. He had always thought that he was a hidden sect disciple. Could the position of sect master of the Jie school compare to Hanju's trust? 1. Traditionally refers to a kind-hearted person, but the internet made it a negative term for a person that urges kindness, but is hypocritical and selfish, or ignorant and incompetent, and causes more harm than good in their self-believed good actions. Chapter 591 90,000 years old, Earth Immortal World. Chapter 591 90,000 years old, Earth Immortal World. After receiving Huang Zuantian's order, the Jie school disciples immediately left. Several days later, the Jie school sent an envoy to congratulate the Holy Mother sect. Another few days passed. The heavenly race also went to congratulate the Holy Mother sect. Two top factions supported the new sect. The Holy Mother sect's level instantly increased. News spread throughout the immortal world in a short period of time, and the limelight was unparalleled. 10 years later, the disciples of the Holy Mother sect began to increase. The immortal world was too vast, and the nearby Jie school's territory. The living beings who wanted to join the Holy Mother sect had to travel mountains and rivers. Hanju was very satisfied when he saw that the Holy Mother sect was flourishing. He continued to cultivate. Year after year passed. 3 lines of words suddenly appeared in front of him. Detected that you are 90,000 years old. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and head to the deity realm of the ruins of In to pursue the Great Tao. You can obtain a heavenly Tao spirit stone, a Great Tao fragment, and a mystical power inheritance. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and avoid karma. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment and a chance to upgrade the Tao field. Upgrade the Tao field. Finally, it had been a long time. Hanju directly chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a Great Tao fragment and a chance to upgrade the Tao field. The Tao field has begun to upgrade. It took time to level up the Tao field. Hanju stopped waiting and focused on cultivating. He was getting closer and closer to the perfected primordial chaos, zenith heaven golden immortal realm. 100 years later, the Tao field has been upgraded. The array formation has been upgraded to the Great Tao Supreme level. The Tao field's internal space has been expanded. Tao field immortal chi has increased by 10 times. Khanate chi has increased by 10 times. The Tao field can block the prying of Tao creator level existences. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Tao Creator. The meaning of creating the Great Tao? Hanju thought silently and felt safe. Even if Dijuan and Ancestor Shitian attacked, they shouldn't be able to rush in. Hanju adjusted his state of mind and continued cultivating. Time passed. After the birth of the Holy Mother sect, more Zenith Heaven sects appeared. The connection between the mortal worlds and the immortal world became closer and closer. Mortals constantly came to the immortal world, and many living beings from the immortal world also went to the mortal worlds. They complemented each other and improved together. The heavenly Tao's providence was becoming stronger because of this. Compared to before the calamity, the immortal world was even more prosperous and peaceful. In such a dazzling era, all living beings were cultivating diligently. Although there were conflicts, they were not too tragic. The main focus was to fight for providence and earn the heavenly Tao merit. Time flew. 3,000 years passed. Hanju finally attracted the opportunity to break through. He opened his eyes and adjusted his Dao heart. With the opportunity to break through, he first looked at Han Tua. Recently, this fellow had not been cultivating in seclusion. Instead, he had been fighting everywhere and expanding the Divine Palace's territory. Hanju looked at Hanyu next. This guy did not stay on the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Instead, he traveled around and had already arrived near the Jie school. Be it Huangzu and Tian Liyao, or the others, if they saw Hanyu, they would definitely guess his relationship with Hanju, so he was still very safe. During the time that Hanju was in seclusion, Han Tua and Hanyu encountered many things and had abundant experiences. Among them, Hanyu and a woman developed a romantic relationship. Hanyu wanted to be responsible for it, but the other party rejected him. The reason why he was rejected was that his cultivation was too weak. This was a huge blow to Hanyu. He didn't mention Li Daokong, because he wanted to rely on his own strength to prove it. Hanju looked at the Holy Mother sect again. It had developed very smoothly, and had more than 10,000 disciples now. The Jie school and the heavenly race also sent cultivation resources to them from time to time, as if they were fighting to rope in the Holy Mother sect. Not bad. The Holy Mother sect's rapid rise had already allowed Li Yao to enter the Heavenly Dao Providence Board. Although her ranking was at the 900,000 mark, it was a good beginning. Hanju's gaze landed on the three pure sacred ancestor. This fellow had always been in seclusion, and he rarely paid attention to him. Hanju raised his eyebrows and looked to be deep in thought. The three pure sacred ancestor, who was hiding in his Taoist temple, was wrapped by a strange gray aura that was trying to sever his connection with the heavenly Tao. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce. He couldn't guess who did it. He had to use the derivation function to deduce. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. A figure appeared in Hanju's mind. It was him. Hanju was enlightened. He was not surprised. Instead, he felt that it should be him. It was done by Heavenly Venerate Xiandu. The three pure sacred ancestor was originally controlled by Li Mui. After Li Mui died, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu inherited the sage position. It was normal for him to target the three pure sacred ancestor. The three pure sacred ancestor's identity was too important. He was invincible in the immortal world, and was definitely an extremely important pawn to sages. Hanju thought for a moment, and moved the three pure sacred ancestor in front of him. Then, he used absolute purification on him, and the system's power to eliminate the Heavenly Venerate's control. The three pure sacred ancestor heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Hanju. Hanju asked, "When did Heavenly Venerate Xiandu find you?" The three pure sacred ancestor said, "Several hundred years ago. He said that he could help me escape the Heavenly Tao's control. But you will be controlled by him." I had my doubts, but the three pure sacred ancestor revealed a rare expression of humanity. Hanju said, "Work for me well. It's not so good outside the immortal world. Don't be fooled." Understood. After being enslaved by the primordial heavenly prison, the three pure sacred ancestor only listened to Hanju. After the absolute purification ended, Hanju put the three pure sacred ancestor back. He wasn't afraid of being discovered by Heavenly Venerate Xian. Repeating absolute purification would deduct a large amount of his lifespan. It was better to warn him to give up. Before long, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu sent you a dream. Do you accept? Hanju hesitated for a moment before choosing to accept it. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu was not his match, so the dream should not threaten him. Previously, when he went to the 33rd heaven, he was afraid that an unknown enemy was hidden. In the dream, Hanju and Heavenly Venerate Xiandu stood in a resplendent galaxy. Looking up, Hanju felt that this galaxy looked familiar. It was like the Milky Way. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu stared at him and said, "Fellow Taoist, do you want the three pure sacred ancestor?" Hanju said, "Yes, it's the price Li Mui paid for plotting against me. The three pure sacred ancestor has already submitted to me. I hope you can give me face." The two of them confronted each other with a solemn atmosphere. After a long while, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, "Forget it, I'll give him to you. However, I have something that I hope you can help me with. What is it? There have been more than 10 immeasurable calamities established by the heavenly Tao. A long time ago, a mighty figure called Zhen Yuanzi left the immortal world and established the Earth Immortal World in unknown territory. The Earth Immortal World developed very well, and Zhen Yuanzi even obtained the Tao ancestors' help. Zhen Yuanzi, Earth Immortal World. Could it be the world where the solar system of Earth was located? Hanju thought. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du continued. Zhen Yuanzi absorbed the Earth Immortal World's providence and transcended the great Tao. He also nurtured a chaotic fiend celestial called the Destruction Fiend Celestial. I'm afraid he has ill intentions. Now Zhen Yuanzi has already abandoned the Earth Immortal World. I plan to annex the Earth Immortal World and use it to devour him. Hanju asked. What should I do? It was a little dangerous. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said. Join forces with me and create a special space to recruit a portion of the living beings in the Earth Immortal World. As our pawns, they will cross the river of destiny of the Earth Immortal World and erase Zhen Yuanzi's insignia in it until the Earth Immortal World is completely separated from him. Chapter 592 Reincarnation Space, Primordial Chaos Buddha. Chapter 592 Reincarnation Space, Primordial Chaos Buddha, a special space that recruited living beings from the Earth Immortal World? This method was a little familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Hanju was secretly curious. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du continued. Many mighty figures in the deity realm of the ruins of End have tried such methods. The effect is not bad. Furthermore, with them in front, it's very difficult for us to be suspected. We will choose a batch of living beings and attract them to do missions as a reward. We will erase the Earth Immortal World's River of Destiny. When the River of Destiny is in chaos and the heavenly Tao collapses, the Earth Immortal World will belong to us. Wasn't this the Overgod Space, Infinity genre? Hanju asked. After success, who will the Earth Immortal World belong to? We can just create a force. We don't have to personally participate in this to prevent us from being unable to escape karma. Hanju cursed silently. It meant that if the matter was exposed, they could shift the blame. Hanju asked. It's impossible for Zhen Yuanzi not to notice, right? This matter is still too dangerous. I don't want to participate. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said. Zhen Yuanzi nurtured the Destruction Fiend Celestial with the intention to kill. If we obtain the Earth Immortal World, we will have a huge opportunity. My master guessed that the Earth Immortal World has the inheritance of the Tao ancestor. But Zhen Yuanzi doesn't know this. If we obtain the Earth Immortal World, we can develop a second heavenly Tao and have an extra path of life. Hanju asked. Who else did you find? You and I are enough. Hanju asked silently in his mind. Is what Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said true? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. He's not lying. He was not lying? This meant that the content might not be true. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du might only be guessing. However, it was fine as long as Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was sincere. I have to consider this. You shouldn't be in a hurry, right? Hanju said. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du nodded. I'll wait for you. But it can't be more than 1,000 years at most. I've already begun to create it. All right, the dream ended. Hanju opened his eyes and asked in his mind, I want to know what the outcome will be if I trust Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and follow him. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju entered an illusion. He came to a mysterious hall. It was 1,000 feet wide and 10,000 feet long. The walls of the hall were transparent, and one could see the resplendent galaxy. Looking up, the top of the hall surged with chaotic chi. Looking forward, statues of different postures were standing on both sides. Hanju saw Su Qi standing opposite a mysterious man. The mysterious man said, The providence already belongs to us. Next, we can attack other space and annex other little heavenly Tao. Su Qi said, Let's wait a little longer. The reincarnators are still too weak. They can't compare to other space. They aren't cultivating to gain strength in the first place. How can they wait? Su Qi was about to answer when the hall suddenly shook violently. A terrifying pressure descended. The surging chaotic qi at the top of the hall transformed into a huge face. Only its facial features could be seen, making it difficult to see its true appearance. How dare you steal my earth immortal world? You're courting death. The hall in front of Hanju turned into dust at a speed visible to the naked eye. Su Qi and the mysterious man wanted to escape, but they were blocked by an invisible force and could only turn into dust. The illusion ended. Hanju showed a frown. Was he destined to fail? I want to know Zhen Yuanzi's cultivation level. Hanju continued to ask. He had to figure out the enemy's strength first before deciding if he should participate. 50 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 50 billion years? Not bad. But it was not too ridiculous. Continue. Zhen Yuanzi, late stage of the Freedom Sage realm, ancestor of the Earth immortal world, immeasurable emperor. The late stage of the Freedom Sage realm was not too strong. Even if he offended him, could the other party enter his Dao field to deal with him? Hanju fell into deep thought. Actually, he felt that he could cooperate with Heavenly Venerate Xian Du in any case. He was sending pawns and not his main body. If Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and I carry out the plan, how long until Zhen Yuanzi notices? 50 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. At least 1 billion years. Currently, he is in seclusion in a certain great Dao land, isolated from the outside world. 1 billion years? What was there to fear? 1 billion years later, Hanju could definitely crush Zhen Yuanzi with one hand. Hanju began to think about his disciples. He couldn't let the personal disciples go. What if something happened? Hanju suddenly thought of someone. Immortal Emperor Samsara. Immortal Emperor Samsara was very suitable to lead the reincarnators. Hanju immediately sent a dream to Immortal Emperor Samsara and told him about this. Immortal Emperor Samsara fell silent. Hanju was not in a hurry and waited patiently. After a long while, Immortal Emperor Samsara asked, "Is there a chance to become a sage in this matter?" Hanju said, "The Earth immortal world forms a heavenly Dao and can naturally support a sage. In addition, I also have a way for you to become a sage. If you do well, I won't mistreat you. You don't have to worry. I'm working with the Heavenly Venerate Xian. Do you have the support of 2 sages, the 2 strongest in the immortal world?" Immortal Emperor Samsara suddenly thought of something. Should we bring this matter to the Divine Palace? I definitely need manpower. Hanju shook his head. You can't be too ostentatious. As for subordinates, you can just bring your trusted aides. All right. Immortal Emperor Samsara agreed to this matter, and Hanju asked him to prepare manpower. After that, Hanju didn't inform Heavenly Venerate Xian Du immediately, but started cultivating. There was no need to be so anxious if the deadline was in 1,000 years. 300 years later, Hanju sent a dream to Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and said that he agreed to his proposal. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du revealed a rare smile. Very good. Have you chosen the executioner? Hanju nodded. You can name this special space as a show of my sincerity, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said. He paused for a moment and said, "This matter will not taint you with karma. After we discuss, the name will be personally named by the executioner." How sinister, how considerate. Hanju said in a low voice, "Let's call it the reincarnation space. I'll send someone to your Dao field. You can arrange it yourself. I still have to cultivate normally." Yes, sure. After the dream ended, Hanju sent a dream to Immortal Emperor Samsara and asked him to bring people to the 33rd heaven to find Heavenly Venerate Xian Du. After that, Hanju began to observe. Immortal Emperor Samsara did not bring Hantua along. This meant that he did not have any ulterior motives. However, Han Ming followed Immortal Emperor Samsara. Hanju didn't care too much about this younger brother, who had already cut ties with him. Han Ming treated Hantua well. If he really encountered danger, Hanju would save him if he could. That was all. Immortal Emperor Samsara left the immortal world with 100 trusted aides. Hanju sorted out his emotions and started to break through. He could have broken through long ago, but he was disturbed by heavenly venerate Xian Du. Next was the perfected primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm, and the freedom sage realm. Jia School, in the sect master's Taoist temple. Huang Zuantian was meditating when the messenger disciple suddenly entered. Report. The Golden Crow Demon Emperor has been defeated by our sect's primordial golden immortal. However, the Buddhist sect suddenly interfered and saved him. The messenger disciple said in a low voice. Huang Zuantian opened his eyes and frowned. Who from the Buddhist sect attacked? Primordial Chaos Buddha. Huang Zuantian was moved. Primordial Chaos Buddha was a newly established Buddha of the Buddhist sect. His cultivation was extraordinary, and his strength was unfathomable. It was said that he might be a pseudo-sage. The Buddhist sect sending the Primordial Chaos Buddha was equivalent to declaring war. Chapter 593 Breakthrough, Scientific Faith. Chapter 593 Breakthrough Scientific Faith. I'll go meet him. Huang Zuantian stood up. The Buddhist sect had sent a Buddha, so how could he stand by and watch? The messenger disciple heaved a sigh of relief. Huang Zuantian immediately moved. A battle between pseudo-sages was about to break out. After 500 years, Hanju finally broke through. He deliberately slowed down towards the end. He wanted to hit a nice number of years, but at the last moment, he sped up his breakthrough when it was getting rushed. His dermic power surged. Hanju checked his attributes panel as he consolidated his cultivation. Name: Hanju, lifespan 93,900/12 septillion 999 sextillion 999 quintillion 999 quadrillion 999 trillion 999 billion 999 million 999,999. Race: primordial fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation: perfected primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm, perfect sage. Technique: primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao, heavenly cycle body tempering great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma, great Tao of extreme origin. Awesome. His lifespan had increased by 10 times. Hanju looked at this long string of numbers and was filled with satisfaction. It was already equivalent to immortality. Hanju calmed down and continued to consolidate his cultivation. After 40 years, his cultivation finally stabilized. He began to improve his sword Tao mystical powers. It only took him half a year. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Hanju didn't directly cultivate the grand unity aspect. Instead, he checked his emails and asked about the recent situation. Your good friend Immortal Emperor Samsara has left the immortal world. Your good friend Han Ming has left the immortal world. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by your good friend Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil. Your good friend Immortal Emperor Samsara created the reincarnation space. Your good friend Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil was attacked by your good friend Li Daokong. Your good friend Shi Dudao was attacked by the ancient master of calamity. Your good friend Pan Xian has joined the divine palace. His providence has increased greatly. Why were the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil and Huang Zuantian fighting? Hanju frowned. In order to prevent the two spies from fighting, he had to visit them in their dreams. Their loyalty to him had reached 6 stars. Hanju was not afraid of being betrayed. When the two of them learned that the other party was on their side, they were both shocked. However, they didn't dare to act recklessly in front of Hanju, and could only agree not to become enemies. Hanju sent a dream to Li Daokong. This fellow was a very stubborn person. Hanju was worried that he would fight the Primordial Chaos Heavenly Devil to death. Li Daokong was silent. After a long while, Li Daokong asked, Sect Master, how many people have you planted exactly? He used to think that Hanju was not shrewd enough, and only knew how to cultivate diligently. He suddenly felt that he had seen wrongly. He was too shrewd. One of the Buddhas was actually his subordinate. Hanju said, This matter cannot be made public. I trust you. You will become a sage of the hidden sect in the future, so I'm letting you know in advance. Li Daokong nodded. Thank you for your kindness, Sect Master. I have something to say. I took Han Yu in as my disciple. I already know. I want to treat Han Yu as my successor. He might suffer and even die. Li Daokong was very hesitant when he said this. Although he had a strong personality, he was not stupid. Han Ju said, "Up to you." With that he removed the dream. After returning to reality, Han Ju snorted coldly. If I want to protect him, how can he die young? Han Ju thought proudly. He was no longer the same as before. In this immortal world, he had such confidence. After settling all of this, Han Ju began to cultivate the grand unity aspect. The further one progressed in the grand unity aspect, the harder it was to cultivate it. It was not that the essence of the Fiend Celestial was stronger, but that the power of the Fiend Celestial Dharma idols repelled each other, and was very difficult to coexist. This cultivation lasted for 200 years. Han Ju cultivated another 50 chaotic Fiend Celestial Dharma idols, and couldn't create a new one. They were respectively the Defying Tao Fiend Celestial, the Surging Fiend Celestial, the Roaming Fiend Celestial, the Spiral Fiend Celestial, the Sly Smile Fiend Celestial, the 49 Authority Fiend Celestial, the Dragon Form Fiend Celestial, the Creation Fiend Celestial, the Realm Fiend Celestial, the Useless Fiend Celestial, the Influential Fiend Celestial, the Sensory Fiend Celestial, the Memory Devour Fiend Celestial, the Negative Karma Fiend Celestial, the Stellar Fiend Celestial, the Omnipresent Fiend Celestial, the Devilish Evil Fiend Celestial, the Sunken Fiend Celestial, the Epic Supremacy Fiend Celestial, and the Ancestral Fiend Celestial. Chi Breath Fiend Celestial, Green Lotus Fiend Celestial, Attack Fiend Celestial, Existence Fiend Celestial, Plane Fiend Celestial, Exterminate Fiend Celestial, Spirit Connection Fiend Celestial, Extinction Fiend Celestial, Non-Distance Fiend Celestial, Withered Fiend Celestial, Time Fiend Celestial, Ancient Fiend Celestial, Great Firmament Fiend Celestial, Tao Chaser Fiend Celestial, Spiritless Fiend Celestial, Emperor Tao Fiend Celestial, Emotion Fiend Celestial, Rebirth Fiend Celestial, Instant Fiend Celestial, Divination Fiend Celestial, Creator Lord Fiend Celestial, Soul Origin Fiend Celestial, Ashen Fiend Celestial, Heavenly Cycle Supreme Fiend Celestial, Exposure Fiend Celestial, Rule Fiend Celestial, Grant Fiend Celestial, Blessing Fiend Celestial, Red Dust Fiend Celestial, and Stubborn Fiend Celestial. Han Ju began the simulation trial, and adapted to the power of these new Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. In the blink of an eye, 10 years passed. Apart from ancestor Shitian and Dijuan, Han Ju could directly kill all existences in the simulation trial. After accumulating 224 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols, no one below the sages could resist him. Awesome. The increase in strength made Han Ju regain his hot-blooded state. He really wanted to find a freedom sage to fight. Forget it. Calm down. I can't act recklessly. Han Ju walked out of the Taoist temple and preached the Tao to all the living beings in the hidden sect. He preached for 100 years. 100 years later, Han Ju returned to the Taoist temple and began to observe the reincarnation space. The reincarnation space was not in the immortal world, but in a corner of the dark forbidden zone. It was extremely far. Even as a sage, Han Ju couldn't spy on the reincarnation space's exact situation. He had no choice but to send a dream to the reincarnation space for immortal Emperor Samsara to show him the situation. Currently, thousands of reincarnators were gathered in the river of destiny of the Earth immortal world, forming more than 100 illusory worlds. Creating a world required great dharmic powers, because these worlds were located in the river of destiny. If the reincarnators changed the fate of the providence bearers in the illusory world, it would affect the river of destiny. Immortal Emperor Samsara showed Han Ju the scene of the reincarnation space. There was a city in the reincarnation space. It was 1,000,000 kilometers big, and could allow the reincarnators to rest. This city was very similar to an ancient city, but there were also some technological figures. The cultivation trend of the Earth immortal world has ended. What's popular now is something called science. By using science, living beings can leave their stars and explore the chaos. The one who created science was also a chaotic fiend celestial. He severed the spirit chi, and used it to attract the faith of all living beings in the earth immortal world, to strengthen his providence. His strength is unfathomable. However, this chaotic fiend celestial is also afraid of Zhen Yuanzi, and doesn't dare to show himself usually. Immortal Emperor Samsara introduced. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Was this the truth of science? The end of science was theology? Was it just a lie fabricated by the gods? Hanju asked. Is there a planet called Earth? Immortal Emperor Samsara said. Yes. Earth was once the center of the Earth immortal world, but it's very weak now. What's the year on Earth? Earth has already existed for 10 billion years. The galactic year is 3,200. Hanju remained silent. Either this was not the Earth of his previous life, or it had been a long time. The Earth he was familiar with had already changed. However, Hanju did not care about Earth or his previous life. He only cared about this life. Chapter 594 Tao Ancestors' Birth. Chapter 594 Tao Ancestors' Birth. Are you very concerned about Earth? Immortal Emperor Samsara asked curiously. In his opinion, Earth was ordinary and not worth mentioning in the Earth immortal world. Hanju said, It's nothing. You should know what's special about Earth. Other than history, there's nothing unusual. Immortal Emperor Samsara nodded. He also knew the history of Earth. It belonged to the core civilization of the previous Earth immortal world. Unfortunately, that was only in the past. Ever since Zhen Yuanzi left the Earth immortal world, the mysterious chaotic fiend celestial had invaded. The Earth immortal world had already become a barren land. Hanju asked about some details about the reincarnators. The reincarnation space recruited reincarnators, not from a single point of time, but from living beings from the Earth immortal world of all timelines. However, there was one thing. Two living beings with the same essence could not appear, which meant that if they chose this person, they could not choose the one on the other timelines. With Immortal Emperor Samsara's strength, crossing time was not a problem. As a mighty figure, Hanju was not afraid that others would travel through time to find his past self, because he would be able to sense it. Several hours later, the dream ended. Immortal Emperor Samsara opened his eyes. He sat in a dark hall with two majestic statues standing beside him. A black-robed man appeared in front of him and said, Master, some races in the Earth immortal world have discovered our existence and have already expressed hostility. Immortal Emperor Samsara said calmly, It's a good opportunity to give the reincarnators a new mission. I'll release a new batch of Dharma treasures. You can let the wind out. In addition, choose 12 overgods. In the future, the 12 overgods will manage the reincarnation space. I still have to cultivate, so I'll stay behind the scenes. The black-robed man hurriedly agreed. Immortal Emperor Samsara let him leave. When he turned around, the black-robed man's eyes revealed excitement. He was about to ascend. Time passed quickly. Hanju opened his eyes and ended his cultivation again. Awesome. Even though he had already reached the perfected primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm, Hanju was still filled with the desire to cultivate. In the immortal world, he was already an absolutely invincible existence. However, he couldn't expect the immortal world to exist forever. Hanju stood up and stretched. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. The strange deity suddenly flew over. The strange deity didn't come to disturb him in millenniums. It also found a place to cultivate. Its cultivation was related to Hanju. The stronger Hanju was, the stronger it became. Now it also had the strength of a sage, but it was far inferior to Hanju, and did not have the status of a sage. Hanju glanced at it, and asked with his eyes. The strange deity waved its hand silently. Through telepathy, Hanju learned that the strange deity had sensed the existence of the inauspicious deity. It had already infiltrated the immortal world. The inauspicious deity was formed by the inauspicious evil of the dark forbidden zone. Only after countless years of nurturing could an inauspicious deity be born. Hanju was surprised. Why could the inauspicious deity enter the immortal world? Why did the heavenly Tao not reject it? Thinking of something, he suddenly looked up. In the 9 heavens, purple light filled the air. A vast heavenly might was brewing. a figure stood in the center of the heavenly might. Feng Liang. His aura changed, becoming ethereal and unfathomable. Even Hanju couldn't see through him. His cultivation was already a pseudo-sage, but his aura and soul essence were unfathomable to Hanju. He checked Feng Liang's profile picture. This fellow had already become the Dao ancestor. Could it be that because Feng Liang had become a Dao ancestor, and the heavenly Dao was in chaos, he had given the inauspicious deity a chance? Since Feng Liang had become a Dao ancestor, why were the other sages not moving? Hanju sent a dream to Qiu Shilai. In the dream, he directly asked this question. After being enslaved by the primordial heavenly prison, Qiu Shilai was absolutely loyal to him. Qiu Shilai asked with a strange expression, "Isn't Feng Liang your disciple? How can the sages not deduce it? Who dares to have any objections?" Hanju was stunned. Just because of this. On second thought, it made sense. No sage dared to offend him. Even heavenly venerate Xian, Du had to be polite to Hanju. In their opinion, Feng Liang's change might be his intention. Fuxishan once came to ask me. It can be considered a probe. After that, the sages ignored Feng Liang. Speaking of which, why can Feng Liang absorb the heavenly Dao's providence? Qiu Shilai asked curiously. Hanju realized that the sages only knew that Feng Liang was absorbing providence, and not transforming into the Dao ancestor. Hanju didn't hide anything from him. Qiu Shilai widened his eyes. Crap. Qiu Shilai muttered to himself, his expression becoming solemn. Hanju asked, "What's wrong?" Qiu Shilai's gaze was faint as he said, "Before the Dao ancestor left, he chose a successor. It was the sage of the human school from before. He was plotted against and died. Li Mui, who had already left the heavenly Dao, had no choice but to return." Hanju suddenly recalled that the human school indeed didn't have a heavenly Dao sage. They only left behind a wisp of primordial purple qi. If the Dao ancestor revives and knows of this, I'm afraid we sages will be held responsible. The once majestic heavenly sect master is still being suppressed in the ancient desolate and will never transcend. The more Qiu Shilai spoke, the more terrified he became. In the hearts of the sages, the Dao ancestor was the strongest existence, and also the existence they respected the most. If the Dao ancestor hadn't left, they wouldn't have dared to fight. Now that the Dao ancestor had returned, Hanju consoled him. "Don't worry. Feng Liang only obtained the Dao ancestor's identity. He's not the true Dao ancestor." "Really? Qiu Shilai heaved a sigh of relief. Hanju instructed him not to spread this matter, and left the dream. After returning to reality, Hanju opened his eyes. The strange deity came over again. "You want to go out?" The strange deity nodded crazily. Hanju thought for a moment and said, "I can let you out, but you are not allowed to leave the heavenly Dao or harm other living beings other than the inauspicious deity. Otherwise, you will be expelled by the rules of the heavenly Dao, and I won't be able to protect you in the future." The strange deity waved its hand in a promise. Hanju waved his sleeve and sent it out. This fellow was very cautious. If he was not confident, he wouldn't take the initiative to look for Hanju. The inauspicious deity was about to suffer. Then, Hanju walked out of the Taoist temple, and came to the Taoist temple beside him. He raised his hand and knocked on the door. The door suddenly opened, and Xing Hongxian stood up to welcome him. After Hanju entered, the door closed. Zhang Ju and the Crimson Fox seemed to not see it, and continued cultivating. Hanju walked to the small table and sat down. He poured himself tea and asked, "How's your cultivation recently?" Xing Hongxian sat down and smiled like a flower. "Not bad. I'm getting closer and closer to the Zenith Heaven realm. However, I wonder when I can become a pseudo-sage and give birth to your child." Xing Hongxian had changed her potential due to her reincarnation, and had obtained the providence of the human emperor. After cultivating for so many years, it was not rare for her to be close to the Zenith Heaven realm. She was no longer a mortal. Hanju said angrily, "What's the use of having children? Be careful not to waste your cultivation energy." Xing Hongxian curled her lips. "I want to leave you a descendant. If you leave the hidden sect one day and go out adventuring, there will be a legitimate son to control the hidden sect for you. These geniuses of the hidden sect are all arrogant. The sect will be leaderless in the future. Something will happen if you're gone. Chapter 595 Divine Clans Move. Chapter 595 Divine Clans Move. It's impossible for me to leave the hidden sect. Hanju shook his head and laughed. Xing Hongxian blinked. Thinking back carefully, Hanju seemed to have never left the sect alone. Even if he came to the immortal world, he would bring them along. Instead, they had all left the hidden sect alone. Thinking of this, Xing Hongxian asked curiously, "Aren't you tired of staying in the sect?" Hanju asked, "Why? No one should be your match now. Don't you want to go out and take a look? Have you been possessed by the heavenly Tao?" Hanju looked at her warily. He hesitated, asking himself if he should purify her. Xing Hongxian said helplessly, "You're too cautious. You're already a sage, but you're still afraid of going out." When she met Hanju for the first time, he was still a youth. At that time he was very cautious. Now that he was a sage, he was still so cautious. Perhaps this was the reason why he could become a sage. The two of them continued chatting about the past and the present. Several months later, Hanju left Xing Hongshuan's Taoist temple and came to the Fusang tree. The disciples stood up and bowed to him. After tens of thousands of years, even after moving to the 100-peak immortal river, the Fusang tree was still where the personal disciples gathered. The black hell chicken flew over and shouted, "Master, I want to complain." Hanju asked, "What?" The black hell chicken shouted, "Ada and Xiao Er want to go out." Ada and Xiao Er were golden crows. Back then, because their potential was not good, they were expelled from the family. Now they were already deity realm existences, but they were still a distance away from the zenith heaven realm. Ada hurriedly said, "No, it's talking nonsense. It's just that a golden crow is using the bloodline resonance to summon us." Xiao Er trembled in anger as the true sun flame on his body burned. Hanju counted with his fingers. It turned out that the Golden Crow Demon Emperor was summoning the Golden Crows of the myriad worlds. The Jie School's attacks were very fierce. If this continued, the demons would definitely disband. The demons might not be wiped out, but as a member of the demon race's royalty, the Golden Crow Divine Clan could not survive. Hanju said, "After reaching the pseudo-sage realm, you can go out whenever you want. Before that, don't even think about it or fan the flames. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks." With that, he walked in front of the Fusang tree and began to observe it. There were already more than 300 spatial vortexes connected to the tree. Hanju didn't expect there to be so many worlds outside the heavenly Tao. Fortunately, these worlds were far inferior to the immortal world. After so many years, the Fusang tree's cultivation had already reached the 6th mystic divine origin and could step into the zenith heaven realm at any time. Hanju asked the Fusang tree to open those spatial vortexes, and he started to spy on the world inside. The other disciples did not dare to disturb him and cultivated separately. Buzhou Divine Mountain, a 3-legged golden crow with a wingspan of 1,000,000 feet sped over from the west, wanting to go up the mountain. Boom! A surging sword chi erupted, scattering the sea of clouds and shaking the Buzhou Divine Mountain. The 3-legged golden crow had no choice but to stop and say, "I'm the Golden Crow Demon Emperor of the demon race. I have come to visit Senior Li Daokong." "No." Li Daokong's voice was extremely cold and firm. The living beings on the Buzhou Divine Mountain were all very nervous. They had long heard of the Golden Crow Demon Emperor. Although Li Daokong was ranked first on the Heavenly Tao Providence Board, the Golden Crow Demon Emperor was not bad either. He also had demons under him. "This matter involves the Buzhou Divine Mountain," the Golden Crow Demon Emperor said in a low voice. He didn't expect Li Daokong to not give him face. "Get lost." Li Daokong's voice was like thunder, deafening all the living beings on the Buzhou Divine Mountain. "Humph." The Golden Crow Demon Emperor snorted coldly and left. 100 years later, the demons rushed towards the Buzhou Divine Mountain from all directions. Demonic aura filled the air and formed dark clouds that enveloped the Buzhou Divine Mountain, as if a calamity was coming. Far away in the 100-peak immortal river, Hanju suddenly opened his eyes. He frowned slightly and looked over. Countless demons surged from all directions at the Buzhou Divine Mountain. They were like an ocean that wanted to drown it. The strongest among these demons was only at the immortal Emperor realm. The demons wanted to attack the Buzhou Divine Mountain? However, these demons were so weak. Wait. Hanju's expression darkened. I see. The demons had used more than 100 million demon soldiers to climb the Buzhou Divine Mountain. They wanted to angrily Daokong. If he took action and killed these cannon fodder, the immense negative karma would negate his heavenly Tao providence. At that time, he would not be able to protect his position at the top of the heavenly Tao providence board. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce. He couldn't guess which sage was supporting the demons. In his opinion, a sage was definitely supporting them. Otherwise, if the demons were expelled by the Jie school, how could they have the guts to make enemies again? I want to know who is supporting the Golden Crow Demon Emperor. Hanju thought. 160 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So many. Hanju's heart sank. He immediately chose to continue. Then he entered an illusion. When he opened his eyes again, Hanju came to a crimson hall covered in flames. He saw the Golden Crow Demon Emperor kneeling in front of a figure. Dijuan. Dijuan looked down at the Golden Crow Demon Emperor and said indifferently, I already know the situation of the demons. The Golden Crow Demon Emperor gritted his teeth and said, Ancestor, please save the Golden Crow Divine Clan. Dijuan said, I'm not your ancestor. The Golden Crow Divine Clan's Dijuan is only one of my Dharma idols. I have long transcended karma, and am not within the illusion. But the Golden Crow Divine Clan have no sages. It's very difficult for you to gain a foothold in the immortal world. You can only rise again and again. You will be wiped out time and time again. You will struggle at death's door and reincarnate endlessly. The Golden Crow Demon Emperor was silent. Dijuan continued, However, I have a way to help the Golden Crow Divine Clan transcend fate. If I succeed, the Golden Crow Divine Clan will produce a sage. If I fail, the Golden Crow Divine Clan will be wiped out. You are not allowed to expose my existence. Do you dare? The Golden Crow Demon Emperor suddenly raised his head and said, I dare. The Golden Crow Divine Clan has no way out. Let the demons rush to the Buzhou Divine Mountain and force Li Daokong to take action to reduce the Heavenly Tao's providence. I will give you a Heavenly Tao Supreme Treasure. You can go to the Dark Forbidden Zone to retrieve it. I will guide you. All right. The Golden Crow Demon Emperor was extremely excited. The words Heavenly Tao Supreme Treasure made him dizzy. The illusion ended. Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. Dijuan was also targeting the Heavenly Tao, and he even gave the Golden Crow Demon Emperor a Heavenly Tao Supreme Treasure. Something was wrong. Didn't these mighty figures already transcend the Heavenly Tao and even the Great Tao? Why were they still attacking the Heavenly Tao? Hanju continued to deduce the reason. It involves the karma of an existence that surpasses the limits of the system. It cannot be deduced. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Dijuan was not that strong. In his understanding, only the Tao ancestor surpassed the system's limits. Could it be that the reason why Dijuan attacked was because of the Tao ancestor? Hanju couldn't figure it out. He sent a voice transmission to Li Daokong and asked him not to attack the demons. He should directly use an array formation to encircle the Buzhou Divine Mountain. The Jie school was chasing after the demons. As long as the demons did not go to the Buzhou Divine Mountain, they would collapse soon. Li Daokong immediately cast a spell. Sword light rose from the edge of the Buzhou Divine Mountain like swords of light floating in the air. The tips of the swords faced the sky, looking magnificent. Chapter 596 Jade Slip of Creation, New Heavenly Tao. Chapter 596 Jade Slip of Creation, New Heavenly Tao. After the sword light formation rose around the Buzhou Divine Mountain, the demons were blocked. Some self-righteous demons wanted to barge in, but they were destroyed by the array formation. The demons were so frightened that they didn't dare to move. In the distance, the Golden Crow Demon Emperor and the demons gathered in a valley. A demon saint said in a low voice. Li Daokong wasn't fooled. Should we still attack? The Golden Crow Demon Emperor snorted. There's no need. Li Daokong is arrogant and doesn't tolerate anything. Even if he knows our plan, he will fall into it, because he doesn't want to make us seem afraid of him. If we appear, we might be killed by Li Daokong. I don't have to say how powerful he is. The other demon saints felt that it made sense and nodded. They didn't want to face Li Daokong directly. The news that the demons had surrounded the Buzhou Divine Mountain quickly spread. The Jie school also began to approach the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Time passed. 1,000 years passed. Hanju opened his eyes. He first paid attention to the situation of the Buzhou Divine Mountain. The demons were already gone. Wait. Hanju suddenly saw the murderous aura spreading at the edge of the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Could it be? Hanju checked the Heavenly Dao Providence board. Li Daokong had already fallen to 3rd place. The new number 1 was Great Loose Heaven. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce. It turned out that the Jie school indeed wanted to pursue the demons, but they were stopped by the Buddhist sect, causing the demons to continue pestering the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Unhappy, Li Daokong attacked them. He slaughtered more than 100 million demon soldiers. Negative karma surrounded him, and negated a lot of providence. Ma the Golden Crow Demon Emperor was severely injured by Li Daokong. If not for the Heavenly Dao Supreme Treasure, he would have died on the spot. Hanju was speechless. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. He didn't blame Li Daokong for this. This was his choice. However, the Buddhist sect actually supported the demons. Probably not. Perhaps the Buddhist sect was only going against the Jie school. Hanju didn't look for Qiushilai because of this. His forces couldn't be so harmonious. That was unrealistic, and would attract more trouble. Being stronger in battle was also a good thing. Hanju stopped thinking about this and looked at his son Han Tua. The Divine Palace had been developing the mortal world recently. Han Tua had also personally brought people into the mortal world. He had gone to the Loose Heaven realm. The Divine Palace and the Loose Heaven sect seemed to have established a certain relationship. Han Tuo's cultivation had never fallen. Now he was already at the 3 mystic divine origin, and improved very quickly. Hanju looked at Etian next. This son of the Heavenly Dao was already at the 5 mystic divine origin. The son of the Heavenly Dao was really impressive. Hanju shifted his gaze to Hanyu. Hanyu was drinking with the Eastern Sea Dragon King, in the Dragon Palace, outside the immortal world. The 7 princesses of the Eastern Sea had taken a liking to Hanyu. When the Dragon King of the Eastern Sea learned that his master was Li Daokong, he wanted to recruit him as a son-in-law. Hanju smiled. Since he looks like me, he's indeed easily liked by women. Hanju thought with a smile. His descendants had their own lives to live. He couldn't be bothered to interfere. The Dragon King of the Eastern Sea was only a Grand Unity Golden Immortal, and was not worthy of meeting him. Hanju paid attention to the others next. Several days later, he entered cultivation again. This was the life of a sage. He spent most of his time meditating and cultivating. 33rd Heaven, Great Ultimate Hall. Fang Liang slowly walked into the hall. His expression was indifferent as his sleeves fluttered. His aura was solemn and ethereal. Ancestor Shitian slowly opened his eyes, and looked at Fang Liang, who was walking towards him. He fell into a daze. Fang Liang stopped 100 feet in front of him and said, Ancestor Shitian, the Dao Ancestor asked me to find you. You should know the reason, right? Ancestor Shitian said, Yes. The Jade Slip of Creation. He sized up Fang Liang and sighed. How does it feel to become the Dao Ancestor? Fang Liang replied, I've seen through a lot and have a lot to endure. Where is the Dao Ancestor? The Dao Ancestor is everywhere. Why did the Dao Ancestor look for you? Primordial Fiend Celestial. Ancestor Shitian fell silent. Fang Liang said, Where is the Jade Slip of Creation? Can you give it to me? Ancestor Shitian said, I can't give you the Jade Slip of Creation because it's no longer here. I don't know where it is either. This treasure has a spirit, and it disappeared before the previous calamity. Because of this, I haven't even preached the Tao to the living beings in the immortal world. I wanted to find traces of the jade slip of creation, but it's a pity. Fang Liang frowned. Ancestor Shitian said, if it isn't in the heavenly Tao, it must be in the deity realm of the ruins of End, or even deeper in the ancient desolate. You can go and find it. The Tao ancestor will definitely protect you. You have to be careful of the Tao devils in the deity realm of the ruins of End. In the ancient desolate, you have to be careful of the fiend celestials. Fang Liang snorted and left. After he left the great ultimate hall, Ancestor Shitian sighed and said slowly, Tao ancestor, what are you plotting? A long time ago, you seemed to be afraid of something. Now I've already seen through the illusion and transcended everything, but I still can't see what you're chasing. In his memories, the Tao ancestor had always been very mysterious. He was clearly the strongest after the creation of the world, but he always cultivated in seclusion. Ancestor Shitian opened his right hand, and a purple jade slip appeared in it. The Jia School's Sage Tao Field. Huang Zuantian knelt in front of Sect Master Tianju respectfully, not daring to look at him. Sect Master Tianju said, your performance was not bad. You are now in the top 10 of the Heavenly Tao Providence Board. You didn't embarrass the Jia School. Huang Zuantian replied, it's all thanks to the Jia School's providence. If anyone else was the sect master of the intercepting sect, they would only be better than me. Stop acting humble. I have something important to tell you. Go ahead, Sage. The Chan School and the Jia School are preparing to join forces to create a new Heavenly Tao. Hurry up and recruit disciples and send them to the new Heavenly Tao. All right, Huang Zuantian immediately agreed. Yes, if this is done well, I will preach the Tao to you alone. Thank you, Sage. You can leave. Huang Zuantian bowed and left. After leaving the 33rd heaven, Huang Zuantian traveled through the sea of clouds expressionlessly. He was thinking about what Sect Master Tianju had instructed. New Heavenly Tao. Something's wrong. Now the Jia School and the Chan School are still important in the immortal world. They are even becoming more prosperous. Why do they want to create a new Heavenly Tao? Huang Zuantian smelled a conspiracy. However, he couldn't participate in the sage's plan. Not to mention investigating. Once he was in a bad state, the sage might also notice. After becoming the sect master of the Jia School, Huang Zuantian had been walking on thin ice every day. He took every step carefully. He had a feeling that this was related to Hanju. Hanju had broken the situation of the sages. The current peace was brought by Hanju, because he was too strong. The sages didn't dare to compete with him, and had to stick together. Thinking of this, Huang Zuantian was full of admiration for Hanju. After he became a sage, he didn't spread his strength everywhere. Instead, he brought peace to the immortal world. The current immortal world was even more prosperous than before the calamity. This was the bearing of a sage. He, Huang Zuantian, had to follow Hanju's footsteps firmly. Huang Zuantian began to think about how to contact Hanju and tell him about this new development. He definitely couldn't go to the 100-peak immortal river directly. He had to think of a way for Hanju to visit him in his dreams. If I'm injured, Master will definitely notice me. Chapter 5 9700,000 years old, Second Tao Field. Chapter 5 9700,000 years old, Second Tao Field. Another 1,000 years passed. Hanju opened his eyes and habitually checked his emails to see if anything interesting had happened recently. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by your son Han Tua and was severely injured. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian has left the Heavenly Tao. Your good friend South Extreme Heavenly Venerate has split open a world. The providence of the Heavenly Tao has weakened. Your good friend Li Daokong has comprehended a mystical power. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your grand disciple Morong Qi has transformed into a chaotic fiend celestial. Your good friend Immortal Emperor Samsara was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your disciple Su Qi was acknowledged by a mysterious existence. Hanju was stunned when he saw Huang Zuantian being severely injured by Han Tua. Impossible. The difference in cultivation between the two was so great. Even if Han Tua erupted his potential, it was impossible for him to hurt Huang Zuantian. Moreover, when Huang Zuantian saw Han Tua, He should be able to guess their relationship. Could it be that Huang Zuantian wanted to attract Hanju's attention? Under normal circumstances, a father would definitely pay attention to his son. Hanju thought for a moment, and still sent a dream to Huang Zuantian. In the dream, Huang Zuantian looked at him in surprise. "Master, you really understand me," he said excitedly. Hanju asked angrily, "What is it?" Huang Zuantian immediately told him what sect Master Tianju had arranged for him. So it was the new heavenly Tao. Hanju already knew from the emails, but he didn't tell Huang Zuantian. The emails could only be read one-sided. He was very satisfied that Huang Zuantian could tell him, at the price of severely injuring himself. Among the spies he had planted, Huang Zuantian was the best. He didn't cause trouble and did not need help. He was self-sufficient and could help him. Thinking of this, Hanju's gaze softened. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. However, the divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection shone on him, preventing Huang Zuantian from seeing his expression. Hanju said, "Yes, I'll consider this matter. Don't look for Han Tua next time. The sages will also suspect if you do it too many times." Huang Zuantian nodded. "I'll teach you a mystical power. Once you use it, I'll know that you're looking for me." Hanju then pointed at Huang Zuantian's forehead. He taught him the invocation technique. After the dream ended, Hanju continued to read the emails. 2 hours later he started cultivating again. He had already reached the perfected primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Next he should consider the freedom sage realm. How to become a freedom sage depended on the great Tao of extreme origin. Hanju's great Tao of extreme origin was already very powerful and all-encompassing. As he continued to cultivate the grand unity aspect, the power of the great Tao of extreme origin was also expanding. One day, the great Tao of extreme origin would contain 3,000 great Tao and become the strongest great Tao. Hanju wanted to turn himself into the great Tao of extreme origin. The great Tao was everywhere. The body of the Tao could exist forever. This was a little like Tao integration. After the Tao ancestor became a sage, in order to reach a higher level, he fused with the heavenly Tao and stood above the sages. Unlike the relationship between the heavenly Tao and the Tao ancestor, the great Tao of extreme origin was completely created by Hanju. It was completely obedient to him, and he didn't have to worry about a backlash. Hanju had to become a freedom sage as soon as possible. Only then could he face the attacks of the Dark Sage King and Luoho. Time passed. More than 2,000 years passed. Unknowingly, Hanju was already 100,000 years old. Detected that you are 100,000 years old. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and create your own heavenly Tao. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance, a great Tao fragment, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and activate the second Tao field. Hanju opened his eyes. Second Tao field? He was immediately interested. What was the second Tao field? Creating a new Tao field? He immediately chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a great Tao fragment and the chance to open the second Tao field. Second Tao field. After choosing a location to build the second Tao field, within a certain period of time, the spirit chi and array formation of the second Tao field will be raised to the same level as the main Tao field. You can teleport between the two Tao fields at any time. Everything will depend on the intentions of the Tao field master. Hanju widened his eyes. The second Tao field did not need to be upgraded. It could directly become as powerful as the main Tao field. Teleportation, a necessary tool for escape. Hanju was very happy. This function was not bad. If the 100-peak immortal river was attacked by the Tao ancestor one day, he could escape at any time. Where should he build the second Tao field? At the Dark Forbidden Zone? At the deity realm of the Ruins of End? Hanju first eliminated the deity realm of the Ruins of End. It was too close. The Tao ancestor would definitely be able to find it. He had to go somewhere extremely far from the immortal world. Hanju suddenly thought of the Earth Immortal World. The Earth Immortal World's Zhen Yuanzi was not as powerful as the Dao ancestor, but he didn't know how far the Earth Immortal World was from the Immortal World. I want to know where the furthest place from the Immortal World is. It cannot be deduced because the Immortal World is the center of chaos. Hanju laughed at himself. Even if he knew the furthest place, he couldn't go there. Or the Earth Immortal World. Hanju immediately sent a dream to Immortal Emperor Samsara. He taught him the invocation technique. Several days later, Immortal Emperor Samsara began to summon him. Hanju was very cautious and asked in his mind, "Is there anyone stronger than me in the Earth Immortal World? 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue. Not for the time being." Hanju heaved a sigh of relief and stepped into the black vortex of the invocation technique. He came in front of Immortal Emperor Samsara. This was a dark hall that was ghastly like a demon cave. Immortal Emperor Samsara knelt down on one knee and bowed to him. Hanju said, "How's the reincarnation space recently?" He had already activated all his supreme treasures to guard against enemies at all times. Although there was no existence stronger than him in the Earth Immortal World, what if a terrifying expert suddenly descended outside it? It was always good to be careful. Immortal Emperor Samsara began to talk about the development of the reincarnation space. Hanju spread his sage sense and spied on the Earth Immortal World. The Earth Immortal World had already transformed into a universe. It was extremely vast with countless stars. The reincarnation space was located in the chaos above the Earth Immortal World. He began to search for a suitable place for the second Dao field. Earth. No. Earth was too weak. If it was destroyed by cultivators, wouldn't the Dao field be exposed? Hanju's gaze landed on the sun. He could place the Dao field there after making up his mind. Hanju interrupted Immortal Emperor Samsara and said, "I'm going out for a walk. Continue with your things." With that he vanished. Immortal Emperor Samsara frowned. He was vigilant. Could it be that a sage had appeared in the Earth Immortal World? That Zhen Yuanzi is back. The more Immortal Emperor Samsara thought about it, the more uneasy he became. He could only pray that Hanju could eliminate the powerful enemy. He was still very confident in Hanju. This fellow wouldn't make a move unless he was absolutely confident. On the other side, Hanju had already arrived at the sun. The scorching heat had no effect on him. He penetrated the ground and created a space inside the sun before letting the system build a second Dao field. The second Dao field has begun to be established. You can leave at any time. You don't have to wait. How humane! Hanju smiled in satisfaction and jumped back in front of Immortal Emperor Samsara. Chapter 598 Cultivating the Fiend Celestial Force. Chapter 598 Cultivating the Fiend Celestial Force. So fast. Immortal Emperor Samsara was stunned and asked in surprise. Hanju had only left for less than 3 breaths of time. Was it so fast? Hanju said calmly, "To sages, an instant is an eternity." Immortal Emperor Samsara did not understand, but felt that it was impressive. Before jumping into the black vortex of the invocation technique, Hanju said, "The reincarnation space is the plan of a sage. Think about it more, and don't lose your life." Immortal Emperor Samsara looked as the black vortex shrank. He was suddenly touched. With Hanju's identity, there was no need to say these words to rope him in, because there was a sage driving him to do his best. Hanju said this because of the kindness from his childhood. Immortal Emperor Samsara took a deep breath and adjusted his emotions. His gaze passed through the hall and saw the entire Earth Immortal World. He wanted to swallow all of this. After returning to the 100-peak Immortal River, Hanju patiently waited for the establishment of the second Dao field. 99 years passed. The second Dao field has been successfully established. You can teleport over at any time. Seeing this line of words, Hanju immediately chose to teleport. Immediately after, he appeared in the second Dao field below on Earth Immortal World's sun. At a glance, it was dark everywhere. The ground beneath his feet was uneven. There were no mountains or water trees. Hanju waved his hand and created a small world with the great Dao of extreme origin. Sunlight appeared and flowers grew on the ground. Mountain ranges rose and clouds condensed. The darkness was dispersed and replaced by a beautiful world. This world was very big. It was comparable to 10 Earths. Although the scenery was beautiful, there were no living beings. It was abnormally silent. Hanju felt that the spirit chi here was still increasing. He didn't know how long it would take for it to increase to the same level of spirit chi as the main Dao field. Hanju started to think about who to let in. No. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. He couldn't let anyone in. He couldn't put all the eggs in one basket. Hanju wanted to nurture a power that even his personal disciples didn't know. Even the personal disciple couldn't know, let alone the enemy. Should he let it in after the chaotic fiend celestial was born? But if that was the case, how long would he have to wait? Hanju teleported back to the 100-peak immortal river. He decided to transplant some natural treasures into the second Dao field, such as the myriad-form Bodhi tree and the traceless breeze lotus. The spirit chi of the main Dao field no longer needed the enhancement of natural treasures. It was better to put these treasures in the second Dao field. Perhaps they could transform into living beings in the future soon. The transplantation was successful. The teleportation between the two Dao fields was very convenient. A thought was enough. After thinking about it, Hanju called the Crimson Fox in. The Crimson Fox was a small demon Hanju encountered when he was training before attaining the Dao. It had cultivated in the 100-peak immortal river for tens of thousands of years, and had reached the rank 9 immortal emperor realm, but it had yet to cross to the deity realm. The Crimson Fox usually stayed outside the Taoist temple, and did not have many friends in the 100-peak immortal river. After entering the Taoist temple, the Crimson Fox carefully lay in front of Hanju. After so many years, it still had not transformed, because it liked its true form. You've been in the hidden sect for so long. Why don't you interact with the other disciples? Hanju asked. The Crimson Fox was so frightened that it hurriedly said, I just want to hurry up and cultivate. I only care about you in the entire hidden sect. If you want me to interact with other disciples, I can do it. Unit thought that he was interrogating it. Hanju said, Since you're unwilling, there's no need to force it. Loneliness is also the path of the strong. The Crimson Fox heaved a sigh of relief. Hanju asked, What do you think of your potential? The Crimson Fox was silent. The reason why Hanju asked was to turn it into a chaotic fiend celestial. The transformation of the fiend celestial chi in the primordial world was too slow. It was unknown how long it would take for the chaotic fiend celestial to be born. By fusing living beings with the fiend celestial chi, one could transcend the process of nurturing the soul. The process was even faster. Morong chi had already completely transformed into a chaotic fiend celestial. He could be released after some time. After thinking about it, Hanju decided to give the Crimson Fox a chance. This little fellow stayed outside the Taoist temple and did its duty. Although there was no surprise, it wouldn't disturb Hanju. This tenacity satisfied him. After a while, the Crimson Fox gritted its teeth and said, Master, please give me a chance. It was not stupid. If Hanju wanted to expel it, there was no need to say anything. This was giving it a chance to choose. No matter what, since it chose to follow him, it had to walk the same path. Hanju said, This process is very painful. If you survive, you will obtain potential that surpasses all living beings in the heavenly Tao. I'm willing. Very good. Hanju didn't say anything else. He directly destroyed its body and moved its soul into the primordial world. Which chaotic fiend celestial should he choose? Hanju felt the joy of playing a breeding game. He was excited. After thinking about it, Hanju decided to fuse the Crimson Fox with the giant fiend celestial. This fellow didn't want to transform. It would be quite interesting if a fox larger than the universe appeared in the future. Hanju began to fuse the Crimson Fox with the giant fiend celestial. Strangely, the Crimson Fox did not roar. Even the divine palace war god, Morong Chi, could not withstand the pain. It could actually endure it. This kid was not simple. Hanju's anticipation increased. He shut the authority the Crimson Fox had in the myriad worlds projection. He wanted to completely isolate the main Dao field from the second Dao field. As for Su Qi, Hanju thought for a moment and decided to forget it. He let him stay in the 100-peak immortal river. In the future, the Crimson Fox would be the second Dao field's leader. The giant Fiend Celestial would be the leader of the Fiend Celestials. It was quite cool. Apart from the Crimson Fox, Hanju had to arrange other disciples. He decided not to choose from the 100-peak immortal river, but nurture new disciples from the outside world. As for Han Tuo and Han Yu, there was karma in the immortal world, so they couldn't be chosen. Hanju stopped thinking and helped the Crimson Fox successfully fuse first. Although he had already succeeded twice, he had to be cautious not to fail. Another 1,000 years passed. The power of the giant Fiend Celestial no longer resisted the Crimson Fox. Next was to fuse. Hanju could finally do other things without worries. He came to the second Dao field. His sage sense swept through the Earth immortal world. He wanted to choose a suitable successor to become a Fiend Celestial. He thought for a moment and decided to choose from Earth. It was also a form of release for his previous life. If this child grew up, Earth would also be protected. Hanju was born on Earth, so he had to do something if he could. Several days later, Hanju found someone. This youth was only 14 years old. He was an orphan from a country on Earth. He had yellow skin, and following the source of his bloodline, he was also considered Chinese. After billions of years on Earth, the race had already changed many times. Because the Chinese were Khanate humans brought by Zhen Yuanzi. Even if the Earth encountered any danger, they wouldn't be wiped out. Hanju had deduced that the Chinese were not born on Earth. Zhen Yuanzi had specially introduced them. When he chose Earth, it was still dominated by dinosaurs. Zhen Yuanzi had no choice but to destroy the dinosaurs. The arrival of the Khanate human race brought providence and promoted the evolution of the Earth's original humans, which created white and black people. The evolution of any species was long, spanning tens of millions of years, or even hundreds of millions of years. With the help of the Khanate human spells, Earth's human race developed quickly and was evolved from the apes. Chapter 599 Towards the Chaos. Chapter 599 Towards the Chaos. On a new day, the 14-year-old Yang Du walked out of the small house filled with old appliances. The sunlight shone on him. His hair was messy and his facial features were dirty, but his eyes were clear. One could vaguely see that he was very handsome. I should search the abandoned square in the East District today. I hope I can find old appliances that can still be used. The corners of Yang Du's mouth curled up in anticipation. Twisting his waist, he picked up a silver metal rod placed by the door and walked east. At this moment, a beam of light descended from the sky and collided with Yang Du's forehead at an extremely fast speed. Yang Du was instantly stunned on the spot. His eyes were unfocused. After a long time, Yang Du opened his eyes. He muttered to himself, "Heavenly cycle body tempering technique. What is this?" Hanju looked at Yang Du from the sun. Yang Du had no one to rely on. Even if his life was rough, he did not lose his optimism. His optimism was not a pretense. At night, when he was alone, he would look forward to his future and not be sad. The spirit chi in the Earth immortal world was insufficient. So Hanju taught him the heavenly cycle body tempering technique. This technique was mainly for body tempering and could attract natural energy to temper the body. However, in the later stages he still had to rely on spirit chi. In addition, the heavenly cycle body tempering technique was originally suitable for cultivating the chaotic physique. After Hanju's adaptation, he created the mortal physique chapter. In other words, it was very difficult for mortal spirits to unleash its true effect. However, Yang Du would become a chaotic fiend celestial in the future. Cultivating this technique in advance would be considered preparation. At that time, Hanju would move him into the second Dao field to cultivate. Hanju returned to the main Dao field and continued cultivating. If Yang Du died early, it meant that this child was not tough enough, wasn't worth nurturing. Time passed. 1,000 years passed quickly. Hanju's understanding of the great Tao of extreme origin became deeper and deeper. He first wanted to create a corporeal existence before fusing it with his body. However, Hanju couldn't create a physical existence for the great Tao of extreme origin. It was a strange feeling, as if it already existed. It was clearly created by him. How could he not know if the great Tao of extreme origin really existed? Hanju had to use the derivation function. I want to know why the great Tao of extreme origin can't become a true existence. 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? As expected of the great Tao I created. Your value is really high. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Continue. The great Tao of extreme origin already exists. Stunned, Hanju subconsciously asked where? This time, his lifespan was not deducted. It's located in the depths of the chaos. The exact location has already entered your mind. A huge piece of memory appeared in Hanju's mind, like a virtual map. The great Tao of extreme origin already existed, and was still very far from the immortal world. Hanju showed a frown. It was too dangerous to go out alone so far. However, if he didn't find the great Tao of extreme origin, he wouldn't be able to become a freedom sage. Damn it! When he created the great Tao of extreme origin, why didn't he notice that this thing ran so far? Hanju couldn't help but ask, afraid that there was a conspiracy. Another 100 billion years of lifespan were deducted. The great Tao can only be born in the depths of chaos. Alright. Hanju began to think about how to find the great Tao of extreme origin. If the main Tao field left the 100-peak immortal river, it would be isolated by the heavenly Tao if it wanted to enter in the future. He could only use the second Tao field. In any case, no fiend celestials were living in the second Tao field for the time being. Hanju immediately found the previous hidden sect island, a grain of sand that contains special spatial dimension laws. He took hidden sect island and teleported to the second Tao field, transferring it to the island. The next transfer would take 100 years. 100 years of cooldown was already considered short for Hanju. After doing all of this, he took back hidden sect island and came to the main Tao field again. It was unknown if it was a blessing or a curse to head into the depths of the chaos this time. Hanju looked at Han Tua and Hanyu. The two of them were doing well and had different lives. The other disciples were also fine. In that case, Hanju could leave in peace. 500 years later, the array formation of the second Tao field had already been raised to the level of the main Tao field. Hanju prepared to leave. He left a clone in the main Taoist temple, while his main body entered Hidden Sect Island. Then, he brought Hidden Sect Island to jump into the Dark Forbidden Zone, and followed the map memories given by the system. The Hidden Sect Island quickly traveled through the Dark Forbidden Zone. It was very hidden. As he traveled, Hanju asked, "Will I encounter an existence that surpasses the limits of the Tao field's array formation, while I search for the great Tao of extreme origin? 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue? No. But you will encounter mighty figures far beyond you." Hanju showed a frown. It seemed that he had to be careful. Sigh. Hanju didn't want to go at first, but if he couldn't fuse with the great Tao of extreme origin, he couldn't become a freedom sage. This trip was necessary. The speed at which Hidden Sect Island traveled was very fast, but the Dark Forbidden Zone was extremely vast. The Dark Forbidden Zone was located in the chaos, but it was extremely far away. Hanju controlled Hidden Sect Island to fly, while comprehending the great Tao of extreme origin. This was the first time he had truly traveled far. He was very nervous, afraid that something would happen. Year after year passed. The battle for providence in the immortal world was still ongoing. No one knew that Hanju had left, including the hidden sect disciples. Outside the 33rd heaven, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate and Sect Master Tianju gathered in a Tao field. Sect Master Tianju held a bronze mirror. In the mirror appeared a vast world surrounded by endless black mist. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate cursed. "Damn Dark Sage King, is he staring at us?" Sect Master Tianju's expression was ashen. "This little heavenly Tao should be gone. We'll make plans later." But the Dark Sage King has been staring at the immortal world. It's useless even if we split open a new world. What should I do? Kill the Dark Sage King. How? Li Muyi almost died in the Dark Sage King's hands. Almost. Li Muyi died in Hanju's hands. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate was silent. Although he tried to please Hanju, and thought that he had a good relationship with him, he didn't dare to look for him. If Hanju determined that he was plotting, wouldn't he also die? The thought of that made the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate shiver. Sect Master Tianju also had a headache. If he looked for Hanju regarding this matter, he would definitely be recognized as plotting. Back then, Qiu Shilai and Li Muyi looked for Hanju to help resist the enemy. The two sages fell silent. In the end, they decided to find Heavenly Venerate Xian Du in the blink of an eye. Hanju had been out for 400 years. He opened his eyes and dreamed of immortal Emperor Samsara. He knew very well that the main Dao field had a clone guarding it. However, the reincarnation space was very far away. Hanju couldn't understand the situation. If he arranged for a clone to stay in the reincarnation space, it was very easy to expose that he was the mastermind behind it. How's the development of the reincarnation space going? Hanju asked. The reincarnation space was divided into two factions. One was Immortal Emperor Samsara, and the other was the human school of Heavenly Venerate Xian. The two were both managing the reincarnators, indicating harmony and secretly competing. Immortal Emperor Samsara said, "Not bad. Recently, a prodigy appeared in the reincarnation space. He himself has learned a special body tempering technique, causing him to be inferior to the other reincarnators in the early stages. But now, he's already ranked in the top 10 among. Both I and the human school want to obtain him, but this child has never made a choice." Chapter 600 War God's Shock, Li Zizai. Chapter 600 War God's Shock, Li Zizai. This child might become the beginning of our conflict with the human school. What do you think we should do? Immortal Emperor Samsara asked cautiously. Hanju said, "If you have to fight, go ahead. There's no need to worry. However, in the overall situation, you have to consider the reincarnation space." I understand. Immortal Emperor Samsara nodded. Then, he began to talk about other things. As the reincarnation space became stronger, the various races of the Earth immortal world began to join forces to resist it. Some powerful technology almost detected its existence. Fortunately, Immortal Emperor Samsara discovered it in time and easily blocked the signal. Reincarnators who had experienced more than 100 missions could freely travel through the universe. The reincarnation space had given a death order not to leak any information about the reincarnation space. So reincarnators were very well distributed among the various classes and races in the universe. How to find the reincarnators was also the greatest problem for the various races in the universe. Hanju ended the dream. He thought for a moment and sent a dream to Yang Du. The current Yang Du already had the strength equivalent to the Mahayana realm. It might not be much in the immortal world, but in the Earth immortal world, it was definitely a strategic weapon. He was already the war god of Earth, and had protected Earth from destruction by civilizations outside the solar system many times. Yang Du no longer looked like a youth, but he still looked young. He had probably taken a youth-retaining pill obtained from a mission in the reincarnation space. The river of destiny of the Earth immortal world had a cultivation civilization. Yang Du saw him and frowned. "I don't want to take sides in the reincarnation space." Hanju indifferently asked, "Is the heavenly cycle body tempering technique I gave you useful?" Yang Du's expression changed drastically. He did not tell anyone about the heavenly cycle body tempering technique. Only he knew. Yang Du immediately became nervous and asked carefully, "Thank you for your kindness, senior. Why did you choose me?" The difference in cultivation level between the two was great. Their languages were different, but Hanju could easily make the two communicate at the same frequency. Hanju said, "Because you have no one to rely on. Your heart is very firm." Yang Du wasn't a fool and understood the implied meaning. Hanju had ulterior motives in guiding him. Why he would never forget his loneliness before he was 14 years old. If not for the heavenly cycle body tempering technique, he wouldn't be where he was today. He was very grateful to Hanju. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. However, because he didn't understand Hanju, he was a little nervous. Hanju said, "Don't worry. I don't need you to do anything for me. At least, not for the time being." How long is a short period of time? In 100 million years. 100 million? Yangdu was shocked, and his body trembled. Hanju said, "The heavenly cycle body tempering technique is a method that can be cultivated until you surpass the reincarnation space. However, your physique is average. It won't be long before you encounter a bottleneck and have no choice but to cultivate other cultivation techniques. You can choose Immortal Emperor Samsara in the reincarnation space, but don't mention me. It surpassed the highest existence in the reincarnation space." Yangdu's heart beat faster. He was no longer immortal, but he still felt tiny in the face of the reincarnation space. Who was this mysterious existence surrounded by divine light? Yangdu asked carefully, "Who is Immortal Emperor Samsara?" Hanju remained silent. He pinched his fingers to deduce. So that was the case. Immortal Emperor Samsara did not personally look for Yangdu, but let the 12 overgods under him look for him. The master of the 12 overgods. Yangdu was shocked again. The 12 overgods were extraordinary existences in the reincarnation space. It was said that they could easily erase a universe. Such existences actually had a master. Could it be that the other party wanted him to hide under Immortal Emperor Samsara and be of great use in the future? Yangdu quickly found his bearings. The higher one stood, the more they knew and feared. What Yangdu was most afraid of now was that he could not improve. Then, Hanju taught Yangdu some minor techniques. To him, they were minor techniques, but to Yangdu, it was undoubtedly a huge opportunity. After ending the dream, Hanju stopped paying attention to the Earth immortal world. After he became a freedom sage, he had to choose a few more disciples with potential. Another 1,000 years passed. Hidden Sect Island had already left the dark forbidden zone and arrived in the depths of the chaos. Hanju slowed down the island's flying speed. Chaotic light was strange and varied. There were no stars, only light and various colored mist. Hanju suddenly saw a huge corpse. It was larger than the Buzhou Divine Mountain and the entire solar system. It occupied a place like a mountain of flesh. The head couldn't be seen clearly. The blood had dried up and was terrifying. This fellow was already dead. Hanju used the simulation trial and didn't detect it. He scanned with his sage sense. This fellow should have been a pseudo-sage when he was alive. No one knew that a mighty pseudo-sage had perished here. It was a pity. The Hidden Sect Island continued forward. 37 years later, he left this dazzling domain and came to an absolutely dark space. Hanju thought that he had come to the dark forbidden zone, but this place was very different from it. Peace and serenity. It was not as terrifying as the dark forbidden zone. As Hanju got closer and closer to the great Tao of extreme origin, he kept using the simulation trial function. 100 years later, Hanju finally saw the great Tao of extreme origin. In the absolute darkness, the great Tao of extreme origin was a ball of light that was too eye-catching. Hanju was extremely nervous. If he fused with the great Tao of extreme origin, and the light suddenly disappeared, would it alert some existence hidden in the depths of the chaos? Hanju suddenly saw a figure on the left of the great Tao of extreme origin. Compared to it, he was like the sand beside the sun. He was extremely tiny, but the aura was very strong. Hanju used the simulation trial again. Li Zizai, mid-stage of the Freedom Sage realm, Hanju showed a frown. It was him, Li Yao's ancestor. This fellow's thousands of origin clones walked the heavenly Tao of all directions and experienced the myriad worlds of the mortal world. His main body cultivated the primordial chaos zenith heaven Tao fruit and became a freedom sage. One of the clones was the Li family's ancestor. Why was he here? Hanju immediately entered a simulation trial with Li Zizai. 5 minutes later, Hanju opened his eyes. This fellow was a little strong. Hanju had to use all his methods to kill him. He couldn't take the risk. If they fought and the other party couldn't be insta-killed, it was very likely to alarm other mysterious existences. Hanju felt troubled. He began to wait. He waited for 1,000 years. In these 1,000 years, Li Zizai had wanted to barge into the great Tao of extreme origin several times. But he was rejected every time. One time, he had almost been injured. That time, Hanju almost couldn't help but want to attack. At the last moment he still held back. Calm down. He would observe for a while more. The great Tao he had created was right in front of him. But he couldn't obtain it. This feeling was too aggrieved. Just as Hanju was worried, an extremely terrifying aura descended. His heartbeat quickened. He was fine in the Tao field, but Li Zizai outside was facing a great enemy. His face went pale. Li Zizai was also considered handsome, but at this moment, he was like a mortal seeing a ghost. His body stiffened. Chaotic deity. Li Zizai bowed carefully. The void he faced was dark, and no one could see anything. Unconsciously, an extremely huge and terrifying figure seemed to be lurking in the darkness. Chapter 601 Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial. Chapter 601 Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial. Hanju waited nervously. How strong was the other party to scare a freedom sage to this extent? He was at least a great Tao existence. In the darkness a huge object was surging. It was terrifyingly huge, as if it could devour everything. Hanju used the simulation trial again. Chaotic deity. Great Tao Divine Spirit, guardian of the chaotic order. It was indeed a great Tao Divine Spirit. At this moment, Li Zizai suddenly fled and vanished. The extremely dangerous aura vanished. It was probably chasing after Li Zizai. Hanju's gaze landed on the great Tao of extreme origin again. Ever since he arrived, the light and darkness of the great Tao of extreme origin had changed, as if it was responding to him. Should he rush in? Hanju could feel that the great Tao of extreme origin would not reject him. Now that there were no other living beings nearby, this was the best opportunity. Even if it didn't work, he could still leave. With that thought, Hanju controlled Hidden Sect Island and rushed into the great Tao of extreme origin. Almost instantly, the great Tao of extreme origin shrank, and the entire space fell into darkness. Inside the great Tao of extreme origin, Hidden Sect Island was bathed in a strong light. Detected the existence of the great Tao of extreme origin. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. He immediately tried to absorb the great Tao of extreme origin. The great Tao of extreme origin was too huge. Hanju couldn't absorb it directly. It seemed that he could only fuse it here. Hanju began to fuse with the great Tao of extreme origin with a nervous mind. After a while the great Tao of extreme origin emitted a light. Just like before, it illuminated the dark space. For the next period of time, Li Zizai and the chaotic deity did not return. The peace lasted for 860 years. Hanju suddenly sensed something and opened his eyes. A figure appeared outside the great Tao of extreme origin. This person's body was gathered with a black aura, and he wore a pure white mask. There was only one vertical eye on the mask, and his pupils spun around. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Seeing this person, Hanju's heart almost jumped to his throat. He immediately used the simulation trial to test the other party. Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial. Transcendent Tao Expert. Chaotic Fiend Celestial. Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial? Hanju frowned. There was a Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial among the Fiend Celestial Dharma idols he had cultivated so far. Why was this happening? Could it be that all 3,000 Fiend Celestials might exist somewhere? Hanju was terrified. Who created this grand unity aspect? If it was the system, how did it create it? The Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial didn't seem to see him. It observed for a while before leaving. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief and continued to fuse with the Great Tao of extreme origin. Can the Great Tao of extreme origin block the prying from outside? Hanju asked in his mind. 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, I see. Relieved, Hanju focused on fusing with the great Tao of extreme origin. 500 years later, Li Zizai returned again. His aura had weakened greatly. He was probably being hunted down by the chaotic deity. Even so, this fellow still dared to return. He really did not give up. Li Zizai stayed for a few months before leaving again. Hanju began to enter seclusion fully. Anyway, he was in the second arena, and was not afraid of attacks. Earth Immortal World Reincarnation Space. In a dazzling hall, Yangdu and the 9 reincarnators stood side by side. In front of them stood a figure in a golden robe and a golden crown. Yangdu asked, "Overgod, why are you looking for us?" The golden-robed Overgod said, "The reincarnation space has developed until now, and has already become stronger. It has been spied on by other spaces. I have agreed to fight with the other masters of space. You will encounter them in the next mission world. Your goal is to annihilate them." The 10 reincarnators were shocked and looked at each other. This was the first time they received such a mission. Are the other party's reincarnators very strong? Not bad. The recent missions are really not difficult. Isn't the reincarnation space the only one? In that case, let's put down our grudges first. The reincarnators began to communicate. Yangdu did not interrupt. Yangdu thought of Hanju. Could Hanju be the mastermind of the other spaces? No, I can't think like that. Before that lord instructed him, he had to do his best to show his talent in the reincarnation space. That lord had chosen him because he definitely hoped that he would obtain an extremely high status and authority in the reincarnation space. The golden-robed master said, "It's not only you. The other overgods will also choose 10 reincarnators, totaling 120. I hope that one of you can obtain first place. At that time, I will reward you heavily." The reincarnators agreed in unison, all filled with confidence. In the 33rd heaven, the sages gathered in the universal hall. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu asked, "Why hasn't fellow Taoist Hanju done anything recently?" Not long ago, he dreamed of Hanju but couldn't capture him. He failed. Qiu Shilai asked, "Senior, what do you mean?" The other sages also looked at Heavenly Venerate Xian. He couldn't have gathered them just to ask about Hanju, right? Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, "The Dark Sage King has sent me a letter of challenge. He said that he will definitely devour the heavenly Tao in 10 billion years. He has already begun to bewitch the living beings of the immortal world, and is preparing to launch a calamity first. He's so blatant. What do you think he's doing?" The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate snorted. "Also, he already knows that we are going to choose a new sage, and wants to sow discord." Sectmaster Tianju nodded. Emperor Xiao said, "I think so too. The Dark Sage King might be anxious. As long as I wait in the heavenly Tao, he will be helpless." The reincarnation mystic realm is indeed controlled by the Dark Sage King. We should be careful. The heavenly Tao is controlled by us. Why should we be afraid of him? The sages discussed. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu's eyes were faint as he said, "Recently, the deity realm of the ruins of End has stirred up another battle to conquer the Tao devils. This time, the one who lost was Senior 7 Tao Sage. I suspect that the Dark Sage King might be related to the Tao devils." The sages' expressions changed drastically. They all had their own backing in the deity realm of the ruins of End. The 7 Tao Sage was the strongest existence in the deity realm of the ruins of End. If he lost, how could their backing be fine? "Everyone, the Dark Sage King is attacking. We have to be wary. We plan to join forces to leave the heavenly Tao and fight with him first. We will figure out his strength before making plans," Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said in a low voice. His voice was firm and irrefutable. For some reason, the sages thought of Li Muyi and Qiu Shilai's schemes. Could Heavenly Venerate Xiandu also be plotting something like that? The longer he lived, the more afraid he was of death. This was the most suitable for a heavenly Tao sage. Thinking of this, the sages were vigilant. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu saw through their thoughts and said, "You don't trust Li Muyi, but you don't trust me? If I want to scheme against you, I don't have to beat around the bush. Don't forget, I'm not a true heavenly Tao sage. I've long attained the great Tao. I've only returned to control the human school for the time being, and help increase the heavenly Tao's providence. Fuxishan smiled and said, "That makes sense. Fellow Taoist Xian, Du won't do that. Let's think about how to deal with the Dark Sage King. I heard that after the Dark Sage King devoured the little heavenly Tao's providence, he could already hurt our heavenly Tao fruit." Chapter 602 Chaotic Faction, 10,000 Years. Chapter 602 Chaotic Faction, 10,000 Years. In the depths of the chaos, time lost meaning here. Hanju's OCD made him wake up on time after 1,000 years, which meant that another 1,000 years had passed. He was immersed in the great Tao of extreme origin, and could not extricate himself. Although he had created the great Tao of extreme origin, and had been comprehending it, he could only sense its power when he truly fused with it. It was a power that far exceeded the heavenly Tao Sage realm. He was not restricted by any rules. Even the heavenly Tao and great Tao could not restrain him. This was the Freedom Sage realm. Hanju had already grasped the basics, and stepped into the process of fusing with the great Tao of extreme origin. However, he couldn't estimate how long it would take for him to become a Freedom Sage. This process might take a long time. After all, it was not a minor realm. Hanju teleported from the second Tao field to the 100-peak Immortal River. He walked around the Fusang tree and observed his disciples. Half a day later, he returned to the second Tao field and continued his Tao integration. He did this to prevent the disciples from thinking that he had already left, and give the other sages a chance to fan the flames. The Tao field could block sages, but it couldn't block their dreams. Hanju quickly immersed himself in the Tao integration, and forgot everything. In the darkness, countless meteors surrounded each other. In the center was a stone island. A black pillar of light with an unknown height on the island connected to the darkness. In front of the black pillar of light, Li Zizai knelt on the ground. Upon a careful look, a burly figure sitting could be seen seated on a stone chair in the pillar of light. The outline of the figure emitted a great pressure that was terrifying. Kneeling in front of this figure, Li Zizai did not even dare to look up. This great Tao is mysterious. Stop staring at it. Many old fellows watching in the depths of the chaos. You don't have a chance. A hoarse voice sounded. Li Zizai frowned and said in a low voice, "I understand." The hoarse voice added, "There's chaos in the deity realm of the ruins of End. The Tao devils are wreaking havoc. Go back and investigate. I suspect there's a conspiracy behind it. Ever since Pangu created the world, countless eras have passed. Be it the heavenly Tao or the great Tao, they can't completely occupy the chaos. This is not good." Li Zizai looked up. "What do you think of the deity realm of the ruins of End? If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. The deity realm of the ruins of End cannot be destroyed. The heavenly Tao world has been shrinking. Once the deity realm of the ruins of End is destroyed, the heavenly Tao will sooner or later be devoured by the chaotic faction. Everything Pango has done will be in vain. The former chaotic darkness will return, and we will all perish. Who is in the chaotic faction? I only know the chaotic deity. You will understand when you transcend the illusion." In the black light, the burly figure slowly stood up. Li Zizai looked up. The ghost mist figure said, "Find the primordial fiend celestial. The chaotic forces are looking for him. We have to find him first." With that, the black pillar of light shrank and vanished. Li Zizai turned around and left. Time passed. Year after year passed. 10,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. When Hanju reached 110,000 years old, he didn't encounter any system choices. It would probably only be triggered once every 100,000 years. Thinking back a long time ago, he had triggered the system choice once at the age of 10. Hanju opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. His body was still filled with divine light, but it was no longer the light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection, but the light of the great Tao. The fusion process was already halfway through. There was nothing unusual on the surface of the great Tao of extreme origin. But in fact, it was almost replaced by Hanju. In at most 10,000 years, Hanju would become a freedom sage and be outside the heavenly Tao. Hanju took the time to check his emails. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by the Heavenly Dao and was severely injured. Your good friend Yang Du was attacked by a mysterious race X76292201. Your son Han Tua was attacked by a deity realm cultivator of the Buddhist sect. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by a mysterious Dao devil and was severely injured. Your good friend Immortal Emperor Samsara was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your grand disciple Fong Liang has obtained cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Qiu Shilai was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. His Dao heart was damaged. Your good friend Emperor Shao. Why was Li Daokong attacked by the Heavenly Dao? Could it be that the Heavenly Dao spirit had already possessed the living beings of the immortal world? The number of times Yang Du was attacked was really exaggerated. After the dream ended back then, Yang Du developed a favorable impression of him. As time passed, his favorability kept increasing. Now it had already increased to 5 stars. It was probably related to his experience. Hanju noticed that the sages were attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Looking down, all the sages were attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and were severely injured. Could it be that they were all attacked by the same enemy? Dark Sage King. Hanju could only think of this person. In short, his friends were doing well. No one had died. After the calamity ended, other than the million disciples of the 100-peak immortal river, all the living beings in the myriad worlds had never seen him. Therefore, Hanju's circle of friends was still very strong. All of them were experts who dominated an area, and it was very difficult for them to die. Hanju thought for a moment and sent a dream to Immortal Emperor Samsara. The dream began. Immortal Emperor Samsara was quite excited when he saw Hanju. He immediately knelt down and bowed. Master, you're finally looking for me. Have you encountered trouble recently? Targeted by the infinite space. The infinite space also has the backing of a sage. The sage of the human school told us to avoid him and not fight with him. However, the infinite space has always been targeting us. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Infinite space. The reincarnation space's form was imitated by some mighty figures in the deity realm of the ruins of End, so they were not surprised. However, the infinite space was blocking his way. He had to think of a way to resolve this issue. Hanju asked, "Who is the sage behind the infinite space?" Immortal Emperor Samsara said helplessly, "I don't know. He was a high and mighty existence in the reincarnation space, but in front of a sage, he was only a pawn. The pawns couldn't see the situation outside the chessboard." Hanju said, "What about the reincarnation space's interior? How's the development?" More than 1,000,000 reincarnators have already reached the immortal realm. It's not bad. Earth is worthy of being the inheritance of the Earth immortal world. We chose many outstanding reincarnators from the river of time. Some reincarnators were born with the providence of the human emperor. After stepping into cultivation, they were unstoppable. For example, Dxian, Ingzheng, Han Wudi Li Shimen, Zhao Kuangyin, and so on. Immortal Emperor Samsara began to talk about the development of the reincarnation space. Hanju wasn't surprised that the Emperor of Han and the other emperors had the providence of the human emperor, or the providence of the human emperor was not worth much. Even Xing Hongxian had it. After all, it was only the providence of a race, let alone the fact that the humans were no longer part of the heavenly Dao race. From Immortal Emperor Samsara, Hanju learned that Yang Du was already one of the top existences in the reincarnation space. He was the most favored reincarnator among the 12 overgods under Immortal Emperor Samsara. The reason why he was not the first was that the human school had also nurtured a powerful reincarnator. They had fought with Yang Du many times and both sides had wins and losses. In short, they were on par. Hanju suddenly asked, "When does the reincarnation space control the Earth immortal world?" Immortal Emperor Samsara said, "There are no longer any races in the Earth immortal world that can threaten us. It's just that the sage of the human school wants us to slow down. He's afraid of alerting the mysterious chaotic fiend celestial behind the science, and even more afraid of alerting the ancestor of the Earth immortal world, Zhen Yuanzi." Chapter 603 Nuwa Taoist Destiny. Chapter 603 Nuwa Taoist Destiny. Hanju had no objections to Heavenly Venerate Xiandu's arrangements. Indeed, it wasn't good for the reincarnation space to develop too quickly. Currently, Hanju was busy attaining the Tao of Freedom Sage. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu was also severely injured by a mysterious mighty figure, and had no time to fight against the Earth Immortal World's chaotic fiend celestial. Hanju asked Immortal Emperor Samsara to listen to the sage of the human school first. He was to pay more attention to the reincarnators and see who had the best potential. He planned to choose the next chaotic fiend celestial from the Earth Immortal World. Among the heavenly Tao sages, only Heavenly Venerate Xiandu was paying attention to the Earth Immortal World. However, because it was far away, he wouldn't pay too much attention. The number of chaotic fiend celestial successors was limited. It was impossible for Hanju to let all 3,000 chaotic fiend celestials be possessed by living beings. A portion of them had to be derived from themselves. After chatting for a few hours, Hanju ended the dream and continued to fuse with the great Tao of extreme origin. In another 10,000 years, he would definitely become a freedom sage. Immortal World, Reincarnation Mystic Realm. Han Tuo and Etian were walking side by side. The two of them had relaxed expressions and were chatting and laughing. They were already deity realm experts now, and Etian was extremely close to the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Can you really revive the dead? After so many years, your parents have probably reincarnated more than 10,000 times. Etian shook his head and said helplessly. His parents and wife had already become Han Tuo's obsession. It even affected his cultivation, so Etian came with him. A mysterious expert lived in the reincarnation mystic realm. Back then, Han Tuo almost died here. A soul appeared above Han Tuo's head. It was the Calamity's Vengeful. Back then, he wanted to possess Hanju, but he was subdued by him. Now Han Tuo was the master. After tens of thousands of years, the two of them had already become friends of life and death. They were not master and servant. Calamity's Vengeful had a solemn expression as he said, "Something's wrong here. Be careful." Etian still respected Calamity's Vengeful. After all, this was a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, and had the memories of the countless ghosts of the previous Calamity. He always introduced the history and broadened their horizons. Han Tuo said, "We're no longer the same as before. Nothing should happen." The three of them continued forward. According to his memories, Han Tuo came to the place he visited a long time ago, and called the master of the reincarnation mystic realm. Soon, the mystic realm master's voice sounded. "It's you again." After tens of thousands of years, the other party still remembered him. Han Tuo frowned slightly. At that time, the master of the mystic realm had taught him a lesson. Wait, something's wrong with him. Calamity's Vengeful suddenly shouted with a horrified tone. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Etian asked in surprise, "What's wrong?" "His aura isn't that of a heavenly Tao life form." Calamity's Vengeful said in a low voice, his voice trembling. The master of the mystic realm chuckled. "Is it formed by resentment? Interesting. Since you've seen through my identity, don't leave." A black crack suddenly appeared and quickly expanded. A huge cold eye appeared, and stared at Han Tuo and the other two. Etian immediately took out a golden staff, and prepared to fight. In the depths of the chaos, the great Tao of extreme origin. Hanju opened his eyes again. 5,000 years had passed. He was getting closer and closer to success. Hanju suddenly discovered that another figure was staring at the great Tao of extreme origin quietly. He hurriedly used the simulation trial. Nuwa, great Tao sage, immeasurable emperor, creator of the human race. Why was she here? Nuwa was wrapped in a strong light, so Hanju didn't recognize her. Even if they were good friends, Hanju had no intention of going out to acknowledge her. He had always been vigilant against Nuwa. Hanju entered the simulation trial and fought with her. In the end, he was killed by Nuwa. He only lasted 5 minutes. A great Tao sage was indeed powerful. Hanju found it strange. Why could Nuwa jump from a heavenly Tao sage to a great Tao sage? She didn't need to transcend the freedom sage? Could it be that Nuwa had long been a freedom sage, but she had reduced her cultivation level to a heavenly Dao sage halfway, through like heavenly venerate Xiandu and heavenly venerate Wufa? Hanju was puzzled. He didn't derive it. Anyway, he just treated Nuwa as a great Dao sage. After a long while, just as Hanju was about to continue his Dao integration, another figure appeared. It was on the other side of the great Dao of extreme origin, and kept a distance from Nuwa. I didn't expect Nuwa to also have your eyes on this great Dao. Are we fated? A mocking laugh sounded. The two mighty figures did not sense that there was already someone inside the great Dao of extreme origin. Nuwa said calmly, I have no affinity with this great Dao. I just suspect that the birth of this great Dao is related to the great Dao immeasurable calamity. Hehe, Empress is still so kind and worried about the chaos. What about you, Taoist destiny? Your supporter, Sage Fated Secrets, has already perished. You don't care about him at all, but you're here to care about the new great Dao. So be it if your unfilial disciple is dead, but this great Dao is fated with me. I advise you to forget it. Don't fight with me, or I'll be forced to not give the Dao ancestors personal disciple face. Nuwa did not reply. The depths of the chaos fell silent again. Hanju was shocked. Sage Fated Secrets actually had such a background? He immediately used the system to check. Taoist destiny. Great Dao divine spirit, chaotic fiend celestial. There were only 2 labels, but they looked terrifying. It was even a chaotic fiend celestial. As even could it be formed by the great Dao of destiny? Hanju thought silently. Nuwa and Taoist destiny stopped talking. After a long time they left. Hanju continued his Dao integration. It had to be said that the depths of the chaos truly broadened his horizons. Although there was nothing here, it was a place where the strongest ruled. He wanted to fuse with the Dao as soon as possible, and leave this high-level map as soon as possible. It was better to stay in the heavenly Dao immortal world. Outside the 33rd heaven, in the universal hall, the sages gathered. Heavenly venerate Xiandu, South extreme heavenly venerate Wufa, Qiu Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, Fuxishan, and Emperor Xiao had dark expressions. Empress Huda sized up their expressions and understood. Empress Huda said, since we can't defeat the Dark Sage King, we can guard the immortal world in peace. Not long ago, the Dark Sage King used the reincarnation mystic realm to capture the living beings of the immortal world. The son of the heavenly Dao and Hanju's son were also captured. Hearing this, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate's eyes lit up. Hanju's son has been captured. He should be taking action, right? Qiu Shilai shook his head. Not necessarily. Hanju doesn't care about his son at all. Otherwise, he would have long been taken into the 100-peak immortal river. If Hanju cared, he would have already sensed it. He didn't show up, which means that he's more afraid of the Dark Sage King than concerned about his son. Sigh. How can the damn Dark Sage King be so powerful? I contacted the teacher at the deity realm of the Ruins of End. He said that he can't find the time to kill the Dark Sage King. The deity realm of the Ruins of End is also facing great trouble. It seems that there's a huge faction behind the Dark Sage King. They are also attacking the deity realm of the Ruins of End and the immortal world. That must be the case. However, I don't know what faction they are from. Our level is not high enough. Take care of the immortal world. The sages sighed. In the immortal world, they were high and mighty, comparable to the heavenly Dao. They were absolute experts. However, outside the heavenly Dao, they would be no different from all the living beings in the immortal world. They were all pawns that had to listen to their masters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.